and tonight we have a very special guest. If you are new to the call, though, please stay on, and we will get you some support, some additional TalkShoe podcast numbers, and some helpful links and websites. This is a solutions and educational-based podcast, but the views and opinions of my guests are not necessarily my own personal views and opinions. My goal is that everyone can obtain something out of tonight, especially a feeling of empowerment. If you have any suggestions, comments, questions, especially if you are in need of additional support, please don't hesitate to email me at tiangel2016@gmail.com. Again, that's tiangel2016@gmail.com. So before we get to my guest, I would like to talk about a few things. From what I understand, some of these after calls have been a little divisive and a lot of perping and interference and things like that. So I just wanted to say that, if you're new, I wouldn't even suggest going to the later calls. I think Kyle manages this call, and typically Ryan does too, but he's been having some problems with his board. But I am concerned about just some of the things that go on, and understand that there's COINTELPRO outside the community, like the people around you, starting rumors and trying to take you down and make you isolated. So it's going on within the community, too. They don't want people unifying. They send people in to cause division, to start rumors, and to create problems. And sometimes it's just targets who don't, we don't all agree, and we don't all have the same perspective. And so sometimes it's just personality issues with them, I like to say. But so I am sorry for that, and I do think we need to be bigger than that, and we need to unify. That's the only way we're going to beat this. And and I'm sorry that there are perps within the community, and I'm sorry that they can make it confusing and they can cause additional paranoia. But, there's plenty of people here to support you and give people a chance to kind of, watch people for a long time. If people are doing good, for long periods of time, they're probably not perps, but it's unfortunate that this goes on within our community. And, just like in many social situations, there's people who cause rumors, and you know how the story goes. You're sitting in a circle. You say one thing to one person. By the time it gets around the circle, it's a completely different story, and that's kind of what happens in this community. So I just give everybody the benefit of the doubt, and I actually don't get caught up in drama. I try to straighten it out, but drama is not productive, and it doesn't help anyone. We need to put our focus on taking care of yourself, giving support, and educating yourself and doing activism, most importantly, in my own opinion, and kind of sticking together and not getting caught up in drama and the nonsense. And if you're new, you're not going to know what the drama is and who's being honest and who's not. And you just have to wait it out. Just stand back objectively, and you'll get a sense. But I remember being confused when I came to the community, too, and I remember being attacked right when I entered the community. And, but I just had to develop a little thicker skin, unfortunately, in a community that we need to be supportive of one another. But there are supportive people, and there's supportive moderators, and there's really educating calls that have a real important educational stance, not referring to mine, but other ones as well. And so I hope that you guys can keep that in mind, and just know that, perps are in the community too, and they try to cause problems, and that's just how it is. And, there's also paranoia, so that's sometimes a component as well. So, but use your instincts, give people a little time to prove themselves, and that's my little input for today. I just get emails from people, and they're very saddened by some of the calls and some of the immaturity and, middle school behavior and all that. And I know it's very hard, and it can be scary if you're new. So I'm sorry that happens. Like I said, if you need support from supportive people, you can reach out to me or other people that you trust, and they can point you in the right direction of supportive people. So anyways, to get back to our guest, which is very important, his name is Steve R. Baysden, or Baz. How do you say your last name, Stephen? Baysden. Yeah. And you're from Illinois, and you owned and operated 2 successful businesses, earning $200,000 a year, and one was a trucking company hauling flatbed freight around the country and into Canada, and you had real estate business as well, and you had rental properties, and you rented and resold distressed properties. You have a loving daughter and 2 beautiful grandchildren, and after this happened to you, your whole life turned around 180 degrees, and you're trying hard to live as a Christian. And then this, happened to you, and so here you are to tell your story. So maybe to give back, let's go back to the beginning and even maybe a little bit before. Like, I know you had a very interesting life. So do you want to start from there, like when you were young and what you were involved with and how you came to be such the good man that you are today?
Well, I thank you for that, Ella. I'll leave that for others to judge whether I'm a good man. I do try to be a Christian now. I haven't always been. Going back to for a little bit of a backstory, it might give people a little bit of insight. It's going a ways back, but back in my 20s and up to my mid-30s, I belonged to and was an officer of a fairly notorious motorcycle club in Illinois and was involved in the cocaine trade and everything else that went with that kind of lifestyle. And for that, not saying that I'm proud of it, but the relevance of that is the deeper that I got into that lifestyle and into the drug trade, the more powerful people that I met. And you wouldn't think it would be that way, and it shouldn't be that way, but it is. And so when we progress through the story a little bit, if people wonder how I knew this person or that person, in a lot of ways, in a lot of instances, it was from that time. It was from my life in the underworld as it was, and the deeper I got into it, the more powerful people you meet. And it got to the point that one of the reasons that I even got out of it, among other things, and my first wife leaving me because she was tired of the nonsense, and it got to the point that you couldn't tell good guys from bad guys whenever you start realizing that the CIA and other people that are supposed to be taking care of this country are actually more interested in taking over the drug trade, et cetera. It was time for me to move on and wise up. At which point I did and started turning my life around. And anything that I ever did, I always did with a lot of gusto.
Determination and 100%. Yeah, you're very best.
I did, and so I took that and I started trying to build an honest life, and began going to church, reading my Bible, etc. That was a long, slow process. My conversion. I mean, whenever you went down the wrong road, as far as I did, you don't just turn it around overnight, or at least I didn't. It was a long, slow process, but I was well on my way, and I took that drive that I had, and I started trying to do things right, and I built a little bit of a real estate business, starting with one rental property, and built it up, and had, at one time I had 6 or 8 of them at once, I think. Nothing big, just duplex, little fourplexes, single properties, etc. And had one guy that worked for me full time that took care of the rental properties, and I would buy houses, distressed houses, and fix them up and resell them. And had my own truck. I always drove a truck for a living for other people, for the Teamsters, et cetera, hauled cars and various other jobs. But I decided to buy my own truck, and whenever I did that, it was successful. Owning your own truck is there's good money in it if you do it right and you haul the right equipment. And between the 2 jobs I was doing, between the 2 businesses, I was bringing in anywhere from $200,000 to $250,000 a year, and it was doing real good. And I was on my way. I mean, things were getting better. Was I a saint? No. I still had my issues at times. I still like to party once in a while and such, but I was far removed from who I used to be, and was in the right direction anyway. And the money I earned was all honest, and I helped a lot of people. Bought a home for my mother at one point. I helped pay other people's bills whenever they were down and out. I let people move into my house, guys that I had known in the past that were pretty good guys that were down on their luck. I let them. I had a pretty good sized house, and would let people stay with me for a while to get on their feet. I tried to do the right thing by people, and that all kind of changed whenever something happened, something took place that was the beginning of my targeting. So
let's do that. Let's approach that into go into that with detail. I'd love to hear that, and I'm sure they would too. Kind of what happened and the man that you encountered and basically what went down.
Well, there were, as I said, the people that I had known from that lifestyle. Some of them were pretty powerful people, and one of them was a lawyer, and I don't think that it would hurt to mention his name. His name splashed all over the internet and the newspapers anyway, and he ended up being arrested and going to prison. So damage was done there. But his name was Tom Lakin, and at one time we were acquaintances. Let's put it that way. And I had even attended parties at his home and etc. He was a very, very powerful man. If anybody cares to Google him, it's Tom Lakin, Lakin, and you can see a little bit for yourself. He was friends with.
And also online it shows that he was arrested and he was convicted of crime. So that's not slander. That's actually a fact.
No, it is. And we've spoken of this earlier, and we're going to try to avoid. I will do my best to avoid names of people that I know that were involved in things they shouldn't have been, and equally as bad as that weren't arrested or prosecuted, because the way things are now, Ella, it isn't the truth that is important. It's what you can prove or disprove in a court of law, which is sad, but that's the way it is. And anyway, that man back, I guess it was it would have been about 98, somewhere around 98. I ran into a couple of guys that I knew from my past that were still friends, that I was kind of out of that lifestyle. They came to me, or they came and found me. I forget how that went down. But anyway, they came to me and told me that they had been at a party at Lakin's house, and that they knew that they seen my daughter there. And that was whenever my daughter was, by that 17, 18 years old, and I got angry about it. And I from that point on, I proceeded to out that guy for who he was, who I knew he was. Everybody knew that he had a thing for the underage, and it didn't matter, boys, girls, it didn't matter. But he had a thing for the underage, and shame on all of us for ignoring him because of who he was and how powerful he was and his money. So whenever it hit home to me, most people were afraid to even speak out about him. I wasn't, and you see where it got me. We'll get into that as it goes on. But I spoke out about him. I went out and I told people, keep your kids away from him, keep away from him. He's no good. He's not what he seems, and especially keep your kids away from him. Well, anybody that I spoke to, that mentioned him or his name come up, that's when I had said. I ended up even buying a house on the same street he lived on, not because he lived there, and it was in spite of that. It was a beautiful neighborhood. It was the place to be if you lived in that part of Illinois, and so I bought a house up there, about 4 houses down from him on the opposite side of the road. And after living there for a while, word got out that he was kind of up to his old tricks and doing those kinds of things again. And things started getting strange as far as my life went. And at the time, I had no idea what it was. Not everybody's a conspiracy theorist. You think they're having a string of bad luck or whatever else. Well, that wasn't it. Come to find out, due to, and I guess I was blamed for most of it, due to his being what he was doing and his running a drug house, basically, and supplying drugs to underage kids and having sex with them, etc., and it hitting public, and I was one of them that helped put it out there. He started being investigated, and the way it was put to me was, men like that don't get investigated until they can no longer ignore it, and this was even put to me by law enforcement in that area who loved that guy, they treat him like a god. So whenever his name became too public and what he was doing, they had to take action. Well, before doing it, they warned him. I mean, he was warned by the FBI, the local authorities, what was coming. And that man started buying people gifts left and right. My daughter was one of them. He came and even met me one day in a bar and sat down next to me. I looked at him and I thought, why is this guy sitting next to me? I don't like him and he doesn't like me. And he looked over at me and he asked me why did I continue to run him down and say bad things about him. I said, because that's who you are, you know. And then he got a little angry with me and said, you know, your daughter's that daughter of yours, that job she's got, that good job as an accountant, I got that for her. And I said, why would you do that? Like, for what reason did you give my daughter a job? She's a college graduate. She could have got her own job. And he proceeded to tell me I should be thankful, you know, and I shouldn't be mad at him. I shouldn't say bad things about him. I said, you know, I'm not thankful to you for nothing. The guy left. I called my daughter and asked her again, you know, I asked her if this was true, that he had got her job. And she asked me, you know, to stay out of it, to quit looking into that. She knew how this guy was, and she was kind of afraid of him. I wasn't. Most people in that town were. And I told her, I said, you know, you need to stay away from this guy. You just don't know what you're doing here. Yeah, he's powerful. Yeah, he can give you money, cars, gifts, homes, jobs, but you need to stay away from him. Well, I started looking into it a little bit deeper. It wasn't just her that he was giving that to. He was giving gifts of large amounts of money, automobiles, homes, trips, jobs, all kinds of things to many people about that age range. This is because he had been forewarned of what was coming, and he was buying off everyone that could testify against him. There were people that he sent out of town. I mean, gave enough money to get out of town, people that knew enough that he didn't want them testifying so they wouldn't be called to testify. Anyhow, for all that the man did wrong, the guy got his hands slapped. I mean, you wouldn't think that being arrested for child molestation or even convicted, which he wasn't. He pled no contest, so he wouldn't be actually convicted of that. He was a brilliant lawyer, make no mistake about it, brilliant lawyer. And he pleaded to one of the counts, I guess, of no contest. He got, I think it was 6 years or something. He was out in 3 or 4. And about that time that he went in was about the time Barack Obama became president. And like I said, this man if you read about him on the internet, he was a power broker. He was rich. He owned a home in Malibu, lived next door to stars, Sylvester Stallone, etc. Wealthy man, friends with the presidents. Barack Obama used to come to his house. The Clintons did. Every time the Clintons come to town, he would sit next to them at their table with fundraisers and such. He knew powerful people, and he was very powerful. He used to, whenever he would drink, whenever I used to be an acquaintance of his, he used to claim he was judge, jury, and prosecutor of that part of Illinois. No one become congressman or senator without his okay or his influence, and even presidents. So that's who he said he was. I used to think he was blowing smoke. He wasn't. The guy was powerful. I do not think that Barack Obama would have become president without that guy's help. I really don't. So that's who he was, and that's how that went down. Whenever he got arrested, and his trial was going on, and he got put in jail, my life took a turn for the worst in a big way, and things started happening. You all know what TIs go through. Well, my business deals started going bad left and right. People turning on me that never did before, you know, it was just, and I still didn't get it. I had no idea what a TI was, you know. I was just thinking, you know, I started figuring it out that it had to do with them and my opposition. And another thing I might add, if people are looking on this and trying to see what was going on there, if you look up on the internet about judicial hellholes, there's actually a website about that. You'll see that Madison County, Illinois courthouse is ranked in the top 10 of all counties in the United States, of which there are, you know, thousands it's ranked in the top 10 of being a judicial hellhole where people can take lawsuits, and they did, from all over the country, would take them to Madison County, to lawyers like Tom Lakin and the Lakin Law Firm, and there were several others around there that were good at doing it. They had that, I guess I can say this, I don't care if they come after me and sue me to death, to be honest with you, Ollie, but they owned that courthouse. They owned the judges. They owned everything about it. Lawsuits that couldn't be won anywhere else, New York, Texas, California, they came there. They won. They won big money. I mean, billions of dollars were made through that courthouse. And Lakin was one of the men that was responsible for building that money-making machine. So whenever all this went down, it didn't just take him down. It shined a light on that. It hurt that. It hurt that business. That was a business they had going on there, and it hurt that. So I took a lot of the heat for that, for just trying to do the right thing. And anybody who is a halfway decent father found out their daughter was there, and then knew it was other children and stuff that was involved. If you do research on it, you'll find out. And I happen to know more than most people about it. There were dozens. There weren't just one or two. There were dozens. But anyway, where was I, Ellen? Whenever he went to prison was right about the time Barack Obama got elected. Things started going bad, but they were bearable.
Your businesses and everything else. What about your family at that point?
Yeah, things were getting goofy. I mean, like I said, I was having problems with relationships with people, employees, contractors that I had worked with, where I got good loads for my truck, subcontractors that did work on my real estates, et cetera, employees. Things just started getting goofy, but they weren't really, really bad. They were bearable, but it was a strain. It was an uphill battle all the time. And then I've got this stuff wrote down. I should have had that part of it. But I guess it was about 5 years ago, maybe 4, that he got out of prison. He got an early release, which didn't surprise anybody. So we were surprised he even got put in the first place. But he got an early release. And right when he got out, his cousin got elected sheriff of Madison County. Anybody cares to look that up? It's Madison County, Illinois. You'll see who the sheriff is. I forget his first name, but it's a Lakin. That's his cousin. Well, between the two things, him getting out and his cousin being elected sheriff, my life went from troublesome and uphill battle to impossible. I mean, it was bad. I mean, nothing worked. Everything was failing. I couldn't get to where I used to get loads that might pay as much as $15,000. I'll let you take an oversized load up into Canada or something that would take me 4 or 5 days. I couldn't hardly get a load of bricks that paid $2,000. It was like that. It was things just were going bad. Real estate deals, that was over. I wasn't buying and selling anything anymore. I was just trying to hang on to what I had. Relationships, my friends, family, even my daughter, who I was really close to, loved her, my grandchildren, even her, she turned on me, she started looking at me. I mean, you could see it in her eyes, she just, instead of looking at me with the look she always had, it was more of one of, like, who are you? And she even asked me that at one point, who are you? So they had an effect. They had, these people are powerful. He had the FBI in his back pocket. I can get into that a little bit more later on whenever I started realizing how that worked. I already didn't have a lot of respect for our intelligence agencies and federal law enforcement from what I knew from my past. There's things you learn whenever you're in that lifestyle that most people don't know and wouldn't believe if you told them. But most of the FBI, and I can't say all of them. I know back there in Illinois, this is how it went down. That they were more their job was more to protect those kind of people than to go after them. I mean, they would protect those interests. And for the life of me, I couldn't figure it out, but I think I have. In the meantime, those guys don't have a long career in the FBI. I mean, some do, but a lot of them are looking for something when they get out, and those powerful people are it. You know, those are the kind of people that will put them to work when they get out. So they're looking out for their own interests in a way, I guess. Things aren't the way they should be. You know, whenever you're living this life, Ella, and you've lived the life that I have, and you've been where I have and seen the things I have, you just it's disappointing at the very least. I know most of the people in the public, they watch TV and see movies with Elliot Ness and at the FBI on these Law and Order or whatever these shows that people like watching, and the FBI are all these smart, sophisticated, righteous people. It's not that way. I mean, it is not. Are there good people in there? I'm absolutely sure there are. But it's a thing gone bad. Anybody can watch the news and see that. I mean, if you've got a D in front of your name up there in Washington, D.C., it seems as if you can do anything you want to do, and they will cover it up. They won't come after you. And if you're a Republican, you can't put Russian salad dressing on your salad without being accused of being a collaborator with the red state over there. So it's top to bottom. It really is. I mean, and it shouldn't be this way. It's not the way this country should be working. But money buys you the opportunity to break the law, disregard the Constitution, have people attacked that know that you have. I mean, you have poor people like Dolly, my friend Dolly over there, just such a sweet person. She wasn't ever involved in things such as I was. Ella, she wasn't involved. All she did was stumble upon some wrongdoing, and look, they're doing the same thing to her. So, one of the common threads among TIs is there seem to be good people that know of wrongdoing in places that they shouldn't. Now, it's not always the case, but it seems to be a lot of it, But back to the story, Ella, back whenever he got out and his cousin got elected sheriff, things just went, I could see the writing on the walls. I was not going to survive it. There was no way. My businesses weren't, and whenever the businesses were gone, the money was going to dry up. It was my relationships with my friends and family were just hanging by a thread, which they all ended up snapping, and it all went away. So I started looking for answers, and I honestly thought at the time that the FBI, the local law enforcement, et cetera, would be interested and do something about it. Well, I was really wrong. I mean, no one took interest in it. As a matter of fact, they were hostile towards me at best. Of the 3 times I went to the local FBI office there, and they knew who I was, and that reminds me of another part of it that I can throw in here. First time I went to the FBI office, there was a man that I kept seeing while my life was just going to hell. Excuse my language. There was a man that kept popping up, and even then I was like, "Yeah, you're just seeing things, Steve. The guy looks similar." First, my cable went out in my house, so I called to have him come out. The guy come out to repair it. Spent a lot of time at my house. Just a lot of time for a cable repairman. Asked a lot of questions, etc. Anyway, he got finished up. I run into another guy, a gal that I met and was dating for a very short time that lived over in St. Charles, Missouri. I went to her house to pick her up one time to take her out to dinner, and she goes, "Oh, and by the way, there's a guy that lives in my house." She had a real nice house, big 2-story brick home, upscale neighborhood. She wasn't lacking for money. But for some reason, she was renting a room to a man in her basement. He came in the door to come in, looked just like that guy that had worked on my cable not long ago. And I thought, you're just seeing things, just let it go. And then I got stopped in my tractor trailer by a state cop that wanted to do an inspection on me after I went to load a oversized load that was going to Alberta, Canada. And the load got delayed. I mean, to the point that I told him, hey, look here, you know, this is my truck, this is my business, and if that load isn't on my truck here shortly, I'm leaving, and I'll find another load, and you'll have to find another carrier or another owner-operator to take your load up there, and there ain't a lot of them that can run Canada, so either get the load on my truck or I'm going to have to leave in a very polite way. So we finally got it on there, and it all made sense after I got going down the road. I was running down the interstate. I got pulled over for an inspection. It was the same guy. It was in an ill-fitting state cop's uniform, and it was the same guy. And I started thinking, am I just seeing things here in somebody that's the same? First trip to the FBI, I go to the local FBI office. I walk in, and I just walked in unannounced. I didn't call or anything. There was a gal that worked the reception desk. She goes, yeah, I have a seat over there in that empty office. I'll send someone in to see you. So I went in there and sat down. About 5 minutes later, and opened the door, and then comes walking a guy. And the guy, I looked up, and it's him. It's that same guy that I've seen 3 times. And when he's seen me, his face, his eyes widened up, and he just about turned around to walk back out. And he didn't. He walked on in, and I thought, you got to be kidding me. So this was the FBI agent that I kept seeing over and over again. He knew I knew who he was, and the gig was up. But I went ahead and I started telling him what was going on. He goes, I don't know what you want us to do about this. We're not going to help you with this. Go talk to the state police. So I said, I've been to all those. I've been to them. I said, you want to see the evidence I've got? No, they didn't want to see that. So that was like the first trip in there. I went back 2 more times. Second time, I was told if I didn't like it in Illinois to get out. And it wasn't in a nice way. It was get out. Third time I went back there, one of them told me that in a laughing kind of way, just not taking me serious at all, said, you ever think about going and seeking mental help? And I got pretty angry with that guy. I said, is that what you tell your citizens that come in here asking for help? You don't even look into it. You tell them to seek mental help. You know, that meeting didn't go very well. But after that was over, I had decided maybe they're trying to give me a message, and I've got the money, and I still got my trucking company. I'll sell my real estate. I'll get out of this area. At that time, I knew what was going on. It became obvious, and I'd even gotten messages. A man that I used to know, another powerful guy that was, I won't mention his name, but I'll want to tell you what he kind of was.
You can say his first name.
No, I better not.
Okay.
I better not. You'll know why in a minute. This guy was kind of loosely affiliated with the mob, and I had dated his daughter at one time, and we were really close friends at one time. I had a lot of respect for the guy. I liked him, and anyhow, he came to my house, and I was glad to see him. He showed up at my house and came in, and I immediately knew something was wrong. He wasn't the same jovial guy, that him and I used to just be really close. And he came in there with a message. He came in, pretty much got to the point. He said, you know that Tom Lakin's out of prison, don't you? I said, oh yeah, I know. I said, what, is that why you come by here? And he said, and he started telling me a story, and it was one of those things, the same way that perps do, where they're telling you a story that's designed to send you in a direction and away from them, to basically kind of give you a message, give you a threat without being threatening, and a veiled threat with a plausible denial kind of scenario. And I said, well, it's really good to see you again. You have a good day, and I escorted him to the door. So, he did things like that to make it obvious that who it was that was doing it to me. It became real obvious I wasn't going to get any help from the authorities all the way up to the feds and such. So I thought, get out. You're swirling the drain and you're going downhill fast. Get out. Maybe you can recover some of this. And at that time, It had ruined the relationship between my daughter and me, and I didn't get it when that happened either, so I played right into their hands. I mean, I became angry with people that were close to me, friends and employees and such, best friends. Even my daughter, the last time we talked, it was ugly. You know, I was angry. You know, I thought that she was involved in this somehow, and you know, I didn't play it right. If I had it to do over again, I would have salvaged those relationships, but I didn't get it at the time. You know, I just didn't get it. So, and whenever I finally did, I realized, and I'd had attempts on my life. You know, I mean, serious attempts on my life. My pickup truck at one point had the lug nuts loosened on it. The hydraulic clutch in it had the severe leak put in it to where it wouldn't work. So if you went to push it in to try to stop, it would just keep taking it down the road. And the brake lines were loosened, all at the same time, in a perfectly good truck. And the thing of it wasn't me that was driving it. It was one of my employees. Whenever I was out on the road, I gave them the keys to my house and my pickup truck and my rental properties. Said, take care of my home. They would do my laundry, clean my house, cut my grass, take care of my rental properties, all that stuff. They had a key to that pickup truck. Well, they about got killed in that pickup truck with all that wrong with it. Whenever I came home, you know, he told me, he said, Steve, he said, you ain't going to believe this, but your clutch went out and the brakes went out and the lug nuts were loose all at the same time. I didn't say anything to him, but I knew what happened, you know, and I just apologized, and he had already got the truck fixed. That was just one of them. One time, the house filled up with carbon monoxide. Whenever I had one of the guys that worked for me come and check it out, it had been obvious that somebody had tampered with the flue on the furnace to where it wouldn't open, and it filled up the house. And another time was on my tractor trailer, which was elaborate, and I don't even want to speak of that because that's the one that I have solid evidence of it being done. If I could ever get a lawyer or a non-corrupt FBI agent to take a look at it, that's a solid case. I mean, if I could get into a court, I'm not even a lawyer, I could win this one with what I've got here. So I'm going to leave that one alone for now, Ella. But with all that going on, I thought that it would be best to keep especially my daughter and granddaughters out of my life, and close friends and family and other people also. I thought, you know, you'll fix this. You'll fix this. You always do. You fix everything. You'll fix this. I didn't realize what we were up against. I didn't know what a TI was then. I just thought it was powerful people out to kill me, out to do me in, ruin my life, end my life. So I thought it'd be best to leave people out of my life. And I thought, well, whenever I fix this, if they don't kill me, whenever I fix it, I'll go back, explain it to them, repair relationships. That was 4 or 5 years ago. I ain't seen my daughter or grandchildren yet since. My brother, my father's died since then. My mother doesn't talk to me anymore. My friends, all of them, gone, you know. And I decided to get out of there, and I moved down here to Texas thinking, okay, that'll end it, you know. That was right before I moved down here. I started doing some research on the internet and started seeing other people having this done also, and I was kind of put 2 and 2 together. I figured out what TIs were, and some of them were whistleblowers, and I thought, well, maybe that's what I am, you know. I was just figuring it out, but I moved on down here to Texas.
Stephen, how did you find the community, and how did you find out you were targeted? You just started. I got disconnected and had to call back, so you might have already stated that. I lost maybe a minute of your conversation or two. So how did you find out about targeted individuals?
Well, at a certain point, I guess like everybody does, at a certain point, you know, when you can't get any help from the FBI, from the county, the local county or state authorities, and I couldn't get a lawyer. I mean, especially in Madison County, they all loved Tom Lake, and they loved what he did to that courthouse. He made them rich, and then whenever all this went down, it kind of threw a wrench in that money-making machine that was the Madison County Courthouse. And, you know, I couldn't get any help. You start researching on your own. So you open up your laptop or you get on your computer and you just start looking. I don't remember how the day that I stumbled on it, but I just remember seeing. I don't remember how I did it, but I remember seeing other people on there that were talking about the same things and that they were having their lives destroyed and being stalked. I was being stalked at that point. Everywhere I went, somebody was there to cause problems and sit there next to me, sit there at the table next to me in a restaurant or a bar or something, and have conversations that were directed at me and such. The whole nonsense that they do. So I just started researching it. I forget what I first seen on the internet. I found TIs basically. I found other people that were experiencing the same thing. Some of them were whistleblowers. Some of them had no clue why. Some of them were ex-CIA or FBI that knew too much, etc. And I thought, well, I'm not alone here. Obviously this is something that's big and gone wrong. And obviously, if there's more than me, somebody's going to get a handle on this. I was sure at that point. Somebody's going to see this, and it's going to come to an end, which it hasn't. I mean, as we all know, this evil is huge and unchecked, and I'm not sure where the end is. I hope that I can help shed some light on it, though, Ella.
Yeah. Well, I know you got together you went to the conference. And you have a great group of people. I know you found Karen Stewart, and you kind of started meeting people behind the scenes a little bit, or behind the podcast and the calls. And I know you worked together, and you developed Targeted Justice, the group, and so you're part of that. And if you like, I can bring in Midge, if you like, or if you want to tell a little bit more about your personal story, that's okay too.
We can do it either way. I can tell you what happened whenever I got down here to Texas, and
let's hear a little bit more about the targeting. Let's hear a little bit more about the targeting, and then we'll go to that. Sure, good idea.
Well, after I moved down here to Texas, I'll shorten it up a little bit if you'd like, Ella. Whenever I moved down here to Texas, I was convinced it would stop. I thought, Texas, it's God and guns and Christians, and they don't put up with this nonsense. Well, I was wrong. And in a way, it was worse because there were people back in Illinois that knew what was happening to me. But they looked at me like, you messed with the wrong people, Baysden. You messed with the wrong people, Steve. You're done for. And even those that knew, they weren't going to say a word. They seen what was happening to me, and if it could happen to me, it could happen to them. I had a little bit of money. I had a little bit of influence. I knew a lot of people, and it scared them. And I think that's part of what this is designed to do. They do it to me. They can do it to anybody, and it silences people. It shuts them up, So whenever I came here, it got worse in that respect because everybody believed everything they were told, and I have no idea what they were told, but they looked at me like I was evil incarnate. And at that point, I still had that trucking company. I'd sold all my real estate in Illinois. I had the trucking company. Whenever I got down here, I couldn't get any work. It went from not getting good loads to not being able to get any work. I couldn't get a load. I mean, it was. And after buying this new house down here and doing a bunch of work on it, taking off about 2 months to fix it up and get moved in and everything, I was needing to get back to work. Couldn't get it. It wasn't going to happen. I was over. My trucking business was done. I wasn't going to be able to. I wouldn't have been able to haul a load for free. So I sold that tractor trailer and pocketed the money and sat there for a few months wondering what the hell was happening to my life. And I decided to try to get away from it. And I took that pocket full of money, and I drove to Mexico City in my pickup truck. Spent about 10 days down there, and it was horrible down there. I mean, it was real bad, and they weren't very nice about it. I had federales tell me a couple of occasions, walk up to me while I was parking my truck or something, you need to take that truck and go back to Texas. I mean, they were less than kind down there. I ended up getting a speeding ticket where the man told me that if I wanted to pay the ticket, if fight the ticket, I'd have to stay in Mexico for about a month and a half. Otherwise, I could give him $500 right there on the side of the road. So I got shook down for $500. I came back home, got on a plane, and that was whenever I started my European tour, which was, it's a story in itself. If you want to take a break and do something different for a moment and go back to that, that's fine. Or I could tell you what happened over there.
It's up to you. Let's go into more of your story. It sounds great. Whichever aspect.
Well, that's what I did then. I came back and I was I was convinced at that point that there was no getting away, that they had enough power to get me anywhere in the United States and even Mexico. And I thought, and I had plenty of money still, and I had nothing better to do. And I thought, take yourself a vacation. If you find a place that this doesn't happen, stay. So I got on a plane and I flew to Paris, and I spent 10 days in Paris. And the targeting was bad there. No matter where I went, I went to the Louvre and Eiffel Tower, etc. No matter where I went, they were right there. They were going to make sure that I wasn't going to enjoy my days in Paris.
Yeah. This is a global issue, and they probably just have some association. Did they seem French, the people that were around you, or what do you suspect in your observation of targeting?
I believe they were, but most of Europe, whenever you go to Europe, everybody speaks. The French speak French and English. The Germans speak German and English. So it's not uncommon for someone that's a Frenchman to, I would say, 90%. All of the young French will speak English. Maybe the older ones won't know it, but in that respect, I think they were mostly French. I think they were. I think that and I believe they were. Am I 100% sure? No, but they were. I mean, some were obviously had a real strong French accent, but it followed me wherever I went, and I sat down at a cafe. I'm sorry.
Yeah, these networks are just global. They're everywhere, and whether they're some aspects might be government, others may not, just be criminal, but they're all criminal in my opinion. So. Whatever the case, these networks are global.
They are. And see, that was another thing I was doing, because at that time, after I moved here to Texas and was here for, 6-8 months before I took off, sold my truck and started traveling, I knew more of what a TI was. I'd done more research. I'd seen people on YouTube. I'd seen that. And, I'm one of those kind of guys that, I don't believe everything I see on the Internet. I think a lot of things are disinformation, especially whenever it comes to the TIs and such. It's out there. And whenever I seen the few people that claimed that they were from, Belgium or Australia or England or whatever that were TIs, I thought, that just, I can't hardly believe it's international. I thought, this is a U.S. problem. This is corruption in the deep state of the U.S. That's all it is. So I kind of went to see for myself, and unless it was the long arm of the United States that was tracking me all over there, I just don't believe it was. Especially whenever I got to Russia, I don't believe that they would mess around in Russia to harass somebody. Use resources. CIA assets in Russia to harass someone that angered a child molesting attorney. I just can't. So I believe it is international. I believe that one of the few things that countries like Russia and the United States work together on is whatever this is. I mean, whatever they think we are, they're all doing it to us. I mean, but it was bad in France, and at one point, after I got through seeing the sights and exploring what I wanted to see there and got tired of the nonsense there, I rented a car and I drove to Nuremberg. I stopped for a day in Kaiserslautern, and then I went to Nuremberg. That's where the Nazis had their party rally grounds and everything. A big World War II buff, and I wanted to see that. I spent a few days there. While I was there, there's a place called the Congress Hall that the Nazis built that's right outside the Zeppelin field in those rally grounds. big, huge building that's half built from the Nazi era. It's a massive structure. But I was exploring that, and that was whenever one of the guys from over there, the perps from over there, and he was German because whenever he first approached me, he was speaking German, but then he spoke English to me. Whatever the difference between the perps over there or from over here, they will talk to you. They will come up and let you know why they're there, basically, that, you pissed off the wrong people, and we're here to, but they had this wild-eyed fascination with me. I mean, like I was, like you would look at a celebrity or something, and I just didn't get it, and they wanted to know about me, while I'm trying to ask them, and I kind of used that to try to get information from them. That guy that approached me at the Congress Hall there, whenever I was inside that Congress Hall, he kind of even, how do I put it? He seemed to take a liking to me and almost like a sympathy for my plight. He knew what was going on. He was there. He was sent there for me. And he told me, he said, right before he left, he said, Steve, we were on the first name basis by then. He said, Steve, there are people that if they don't like what you say or even what you think, they will get you. And I said, who? Who are we talking about here? Come on, who are we talking about? He said, I can't tell you, I got to go. And sort of bodily stopping these people whenever they said they had to go. I mean, you can't do that. I would have ended up in a foreign prison, but that's what that man said to me. I ended up working my way on up to Berlin. I drove on up to Berlin, stayed at the Park Inn there in Alexanderplatz in East Germany. And I thought, in East Germany, these people dealt with the Nazis, the SS, the black shirts, and then after that was over, East Germany had to deal with the Stasi, for God's sakes, which is the closest relation to what we're dealing with. I said it won't take place in East Germany. It just won't. It can't. It was so bad in East Germany. It was the worst that it's been anywhere. Worse than East Alton, Illinois. Worse than down here in East Texas. Worse than Mexico. Worse than France. East Germany. I wouldn't have believed it. But it was really bad there, Ella.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me because I watch Catherine Horton, and she's talked about Germany. I don't get to see a lot of her work, but I'm not surprised about Germany. But that's so interesting. Well, that's almost like a pleasant word. That, that's where so much of this technology and so much of what we experience is MK Ultra. It's all derived. Many people believe from World War II and the scientists that came over. So that's interesting.
It was. I think the Operation Paperclip. Those scientists over in Germany. I studied that and studied it. I as much as I despise what the Nazis did, those Germans were brilliant. If they wouldn't have been taken down by World War II, they would have been leaps and bounds ahead of every other country in the world in technology. They were that far ahead. And those scientists we brought over in Operation Paperclip, I've got a couple books on that I've studied on it. They were the precursor to this. That and the OSS. At the end of World War II, they created that OSS, which was the precursor of the CIA, and that is out of control. Our intelligence agencies, that CIA and that deep state, and our intelligence agencies are at the heart of this, and they are out of control. I am 100% convinced of that. They are off the leash. They have been fed so much money. And now the CIA, make no mistake about it, the reason you don't see anything about big cocaine busts anymore is because that would ruin their business. The CIA completely took over the cocaine trade, completely.
I have heard that from a lot of reliable sources, people that have worked within the company, worked within the agencies, and that doesn't surprise me. First time I heard it, it shocked me a little bit. When I thought about it in the big picture in the history of America and what's been revealed to be fact at this point, it didn't surprise me after that.
Whenever I realized it was whenever I was in the trade. Whenever you get far enough in there, you find out who's running it. So, but anyway, they're completely there is no leash anymore. They're off the leash. They run things. They have more money. They have more influence. They have more power, more technology, and they are.
Kevin Shipp can give you some numbers about how much money's in the deep state and the shadow government. We're talking trillions. It's unfathomable amounts of money, and there's no oversight either. These are privatized aspects of the agencies, according to Kevin Shipp. And I do suggest people look him up online or on YouTube, because he gives amazing information in regards to the deep state and the military complex. Yeah.
It is, and you know, most people have never ever encountered an FBI or a CIA agent, or they've never been in the underworld where they've encountered them like I have. They haven't been a TI and been exposed to them like I have, and then overseas, etc. I mean, and I read nonstop. I read a couple books a month, and I've studied online and read books about it, etc. But I've also lived it. I've lived it firsthand. Whenever you read it, you think that's somebody's opinion. Somebody wrote that, or they're right. I lived it. Did I see everything that I read in the books? No. But whenever you've seen enough by living life in that circle, in those depths, to where you've been exposed to it, you can believe what you're reading. You can. There's more of a realness to it, if you know what I'm saying in that respect. But anyway, back in Berlin, the things were really bad. I went to see a human rights lawyer there that's internationally known, that works on international human rights. It's worked for WikiLeaks, etc. I went there. They knew who I was before I got there. They wouldn't even hardly open the door. They just cracked it. And it was obvious somebody was standing behind that door, giving that person information and trying to just get me out of there. When I left there, I went to a little cafe bar around the corner. That was in West Berlin. A man walked in there and handed the bartender a note. It was just me and the bartender, and we were getting along famously. She barely spoke English. I barely spoke German, and we were laughing and cutting up and having a good time. He walked in there and handed her a note. And I knew right then, I'd been living this too long at that point, what was up. She looked at that note, looked at him, looked at me, looked back at that note, and looked at him again with this look on her eyes. She walked around the bar and gave me a big hug and held my face like I was, like my grandmother used to do, and looked at me like, it was just the weirdest thing. And then she walked back around the bar. That guy started to walk away, and I was going, hold it. I said, who are you? I said, let me buy you a beer. Let's talk for a minute. He said, all right. So we walked down on the patio, sat down and talked, and he was another one of those European perps that they have no problem letting you know who they are. And we talked for a moment, and then the man told me, you need to let go. He had no idea where I was from. I may have said I was from Texas, but he had no idea my history, or he shouldn't have. The man looks at me and he says, you need to let go of that stuff back in Illinois. I said, are you talking about the problems I got with the lawyers and such? Yes. You need to let that go. I said, well, why do you say that? He said, that has nothing to do with this. You need to let it go. I said, well, what does this have to do with then? No, I can't tell you that, but you need to let that go. And that's all the guy would say. And then he started asking me what I was doing there, and I said, what do you mean? You're here in Germany? No. What do you have to do? And I couldn't make heads or tails what this guy was trying to get at. Then he said he had to leave. He got up and insisted on giving me a big hug, and then looked at me like we were best friends, and he just walked away in the distance. It was the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. Oh, I don't even know what to make of that, but I thought it was just bizarre. But he was one of them. But they're different in Europe. I have no idea why. They're not angry. They've got like a fascination, and they even give you some clues. I mean, it was just bizarre. But anyway, the next day I went for a walk. I like that old architecture of the pre-World War II buildings, the Baysden in Berlin. found one over near Alexanderplatz where I was at, and it happened to be a hall, a concert hall. And who was going to be there the very next night? And I think sometimes fate plays a part in this. It's called the Volksbund. I got the ticket here for it still. The very next night, they were having a thing in there called First They Came for Assange. And live there was William Benny, Sarah Harrison of WikiLeaks, Richter, Sotomayor, Strobe, and P.J. Harvey. And Assange was going to be streamed in live on the big screen on the screen behind him. So I bought a ticket and I went to that. It was pretty good. William Benny didn't show up. He got real sick, so they streamed him in live through the screen also. After it was over, I walked right down there to the stage, walked up on the stage with Sarah Harrison. If anybody doesn't know who she is, she's the gal from WikiLeaks that was sent to Hong Kong to get Edward Snowden. She got Edward Snowden there in Hong Kong. She flew him to Moscow where they were going to go on to Ecuador. When they got to Moscow, they got held up. His passport got revoked. She stayed with him for, 2 months in that hotel in the airport there in Moscow that I flew in and out of. But anyway, I went down there and I walked straight up to her and I said, Sarah Harrison? She said, yeah. I said, I'm Steve Baysden. I'm from Texas. I said, I got a story for you. And I gave her the 5-10 minute rundown of what took place. She said, look, Steve, she said, I'm really, really interested. She goes, and I want to hear the rest of it, and I can help you. She said, I got to take care of these people on stage. They're my guests. I said, okay. She gave me her handwritten email address. I've got it here in front of me and said, you write me tonight. She says, we'll meet tomorrow. I'll tell you where to meet me. I went back to my hotel room. I sent her an email. I got no reply. I stayed in Berlin for 4 days. I got no reply. The targeting was just off the charts in East Berlin. I finally said, you know what, I'm going to try one more thing. And if I can get away from it there, I'm going to stay. And I was carrying a lot of cold hard cash, enough to get myself resettled. So I went down there by the Brandenburg Gate to the Russian embassy, and I got a visa, and I flew to Moscow. Whenever I got to Moscow, I went to a hotel. First 2-3 days, great. I thought, I may have found a new home. No targeting. People were nice. Nobody spoke English. It was difficult because, unlike in Europe, few people speak English, but I thought, well, maybe I can learn Russian. But after about 3 days, things started getting weird. The targeting wasn't the same there, but it took off. They put a guard at the front of my building, at the front door, put another guard at the back door, and they had a cab that sat out front that wouldn't take anyone anywhere except for me. Whenever I walked out, they escorted me to that cab. Same cab driver every time. He was my cab driver. I don't know if he was FSB or what, but that was my cab. And the targeting started everywhere I went. They were there. They didn't even try to hide it. They were there. They were following me, and I'd turn around, same person be there. He would smile and wave, but he was there no matter where I went. So I knew I wasn't getting away from it there. And after a few days, and I even went to, I shouldn't even say this, but I even went to what's called the, what was it? I've got it written down around here somewhere. It was, it was a department where they, I've got it written down here somewhere. It was, I think they called it the SSB or something like that, Immigration Services. Anyway, I was going to see about staying, see about getting asylum for a while, tell them what was going on. Whenever I went to that office, they knew who I was when I got there, and they were less than receptive. And I thought, you can't get away from this in Moscow. Well, halfway around the world, it's still there. I left there and proceeded the next day to go on a tour of Moscow drinking, which I don't drink much anymore, but I was then, and I was a little bit angry at that point. And so I started walking around and drinking. I ended up at a bar just outside the Kremlin walls, just north of the Red Square there. I walked in there, And this is a country that's not got a lot of English-speaking people in it. That's not a second language for them. And there was 2 or 3 English-speaking guys at the bar, and I sat down there, and one of them came over and sat next to me. And within about 15 minutes, he started the whole perp thing, talking about things that he shouldn't know about what I did in Texas 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks earlier or whatever. And I was about half drunk, and, I used to be quite the fighter, et cetera, and I don't take too kindly to such things. And I kind of went off on this guy. I mean, I let him have it, and he knew I knew who he was, and there was no sense in keeping it a secret. And the guy proceeded to tell me that this was all about national security. I said, what national security? I'm not even in the United States. Whose nation are we talking about at this point? Or is it world security? And it just got ugly. And it came to the point where I told the man, what Benjamin Franklin said. I said, anybody that's willing to give up their liberty and privacy for a little bit of security deserves neither. And I called him a foul name, a pretty bad name, and that guy blew up. He threw his beer down on the bar, backed up, started screaming at me in English, calling me every MFer and every other name in the book. That place was packed, and it went dead quiet. He turned around and in Russian started yelling at the crowd in there, who was just wide-eyed looking at him. I have no idea what he was saying. Whenever he got through, he stormed out the door. I told the bartender, I said, look, I'm sorry. He spoke English. I said, look, I'm real sorry. I said, maybe I better pay my bar tab and leave. And he looked at me real serious, and he said, I think that's a good idea. I paid my bar tab, and I walked out in the middle of Red Square. I'd been drinking quite a bit. At that point, I got about halfway across Red Square, walking towards my hotel. It dawned on me, you are walking all the way back to your hotel. It's like 4 miles, and you're half drunk. I'm standing in the middle of Red Square looking around. There's shadowy figures here and there, and I thought, you don't have no idea what you just did here, and you could be getting yourself killed here in Moscow. And it was at that point, Ella, and this is where we'll wrap it up there's more details, but this is the basics of it. And at that point, I stood there in the middle of Red Square, and I said, if I can get myself back to my hotel room and out of this country and back to Texas without getting killed, I'm going back, and I'm going to try to find other people in this community, and I'm going to fight this. There is no getting away from it. You're standing in the middle of Red Square, and you just got an altercation with a perp, and you're going to get yourself killed. So that was the end of that tour. I ended up going back to the hotel room, woke up next day, booked a flight, came back to Texas, called Karen Stewart, first person I talked to in the TI community, and then it took off from there, met other people. She introduced me to Midge, met other people, went to the Boston conference, met more, meeting people online, making some friends, met you, Ella, and now we've got this group, and I'm going to do all I can to fight them. I mean, we've got no choice. There's nowhere we can go to get away from it. And it's just pure evil. I mean, and it's happening to good people that had no contacts with people like I did. Never belonged in the underworld. Never wronged a powerful attorney that was friends with presidents that hung out with him. And it's just wrong. It's evil, and we've got to defeat it.
Yep, you're right. From this point, I'm going to bring Midge into the call. Midge, if you can star 8, I'll bring you into the call and the conversation. There she is.
Hi, Midge.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Hi, guys. Steve, I just want to thank you for having the courage to tell your story.
Well, it's about time I came out and started getting public with it, isn't it, Midge? I mean, I've been trying to fight this by myself for too long, and keeping this story to myself, and it's not going to do us, or it's not going to do me or anyone else any good if I don't get it out there, is it?
Well, we're just grateful to you, and I just want to tell everyone that we have formed this group, Targeted Justice, and I had been talking to Steve prior to the conference, but I met him at the conference, Karen Stewart had put me in touch with him prior to the conference, and I liked him immediately. But Steve graciously opened up his home to virtually, 8 people that he really did not know that well. And it just all came together, and he was so wonderful. He was a great host. And, we slept where we could find room. He gave the girls his bedroom, bathroom. But, some people were sleeping in the recliner, and so,
we were sleeping everywhere, weren't we, Miss?
Yep, he's such a great, wonderful man. He's a great guy who has stepped up to the plate, and we're just grateful to him for doing all that he's doing, and and offered up his home to us, and it all came together.
Let me chime in here. While Midge likes to give other people credit, I want everyone to know that this group that has been put together was Midge's idea. Midge picked us out because she wanted to pick out some bright people from different walks of life that could all bring something to this, and she did a good job. I just offered up my home whenever I was offered a position in this group and said I'd love to have you all here. So this is Midge's brainchild, and it's a very, very good idea, and I have high hopes for us. I really do, Midge, and I thank you.
Oh, thank you. But truly, when you do something like that, then you're putting yourself in the hot seat, and he knew that. And, all kinds of things have happened to each and every one of us, and certainly trying to fly out. But we are committed to doing it again. He has offered up his home again. We're just so grateful. And I just want to thank everyone. I've received so many emails in the last week, people wanting to join the class action lawsuit. But I'm just overwhelmed with the kindness that everybody is showing, and that they want to volunteer to help us. I'm just so grateful. And there are so many kind people in our community, so many wonderful people, so many intelligent people. We are the best of the best. And I have said this so many times. I have never met such a courageous group in all my life. Everyone needs to. Yeah.
Midge, it's a good one you put together, and who would have thought 10 years ago that this group you put together from all over the country, all walks of life, from a NASA engineer to you there in Phoenix, it's such a bright girl that's put this together, and an ex-biker from Illinois, and Dolly, and it's just the whole group, Susan from New York, and Greg Mann over here in Kansas City, such a good person. You picked out some good people, and I have high hopes for us, Midge, and you have my admiration for what you've done.
Thank you. It was hard to decide, but it was always a dream of mine. And I just feel like God had a hand in it. That's all I can say, because we all get along so well.
We do.
And we all click, and we're powerful. We just are powerful together. That's all there is to it. But I am just overwhelmed by everyone's kindness, and I just only see this succeeding. I truly do. So thank you all for all your great emails that I have received, and everyone saying they want to join. We have so many people. We have like over 200 now, and that's astounding.
That's great, and we are going to take it to them. We're going to take it to them like no one ever has before. I hope we're successful, but if it's not, it won't be for lack of our trying, because we're going to take it to them.
Oh, we will.
And also, even regardless of the outcome, this is definitely going to bring attention to the cause. Anything that we as a community can do to bring added attention, is not a lost cause.
Well, we're going to bring in some heavy names. I've reached out to some heavy hitters, and I've heard back from some of them. And, because it's just not us. There's some, great people who have been bold enough to come forward, but they've not been a part of a class action lawsuit. So we're hoping a lot of them will jump on board. And so far, I have received a great response from some of them. So we just are going to go forward. We're not going to listen to anything negative. That's just not in our scope of anything. It's just onward. So, but thank you all, everyone. You've been so kind.
Thank you. Thank you, Midge. Thank you, Midge, and for the people listening, it's Targeted Justice, and we do have a website up. And this is something that Midge put together, and she's the one to thank for it. And we will try to make a difference for all of us. And I left out Richard Lighthouse. Richard Lighthouse is a part of our group. He's an NASA engineer, and he's a brilliant, brilliant man. If no one's seen his website, I recommend they take a look at it and read his books. Most of them are free. The man's brilliant.
Yeah, we have him. Also, we've interviewed him, so he's on the Ella Free channel as well. So, yeah.
I listened to those, Ella. They were very good.
And then I had him on the radio show because, he has a very expansive knowledge and all kinds of topics related to targeting. And so, yeah, I think he's a wonderful man. He went to the conference and gave his presentation. So I think very highly of him as well.
And I just want to say one more thing that, we are looking for volunteers to help us, and I've had, at least now 10 people willing to help in any way they can. So if there's anyone out there who would like to volunteer to do whatever, I now have someone in charge of that and who can coordinate volunteers, and we would be so ever grateful to all of you for doing that.
Who do we have coordinating volunteers now, Mitch? Do you mind telling me on the phone or?
Huh?
No? Okay. I was wondering who.
Not you.
I was hoping it wasn't me. I got my hands full with what I'm doing in my job and everything, man. I was hoping it wasn't me.
Yeah. I mean, we have groups. I mean, we've gone about this in a very professional way, like we're a corporation. And so we have broken it up in groups, and then the groups have specific jobs to do before we get back together again for our next meeting, which is already planned. And we are just determined. And we have our board of directors. And so, I'm just so grateful to everyone, truly, so grateful.
We're grateful to you, Mitch.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, at this point, you guys, so again, it's targetedjustice.com. And if you'd like to contribute or become involved on any level, you can email them through the website. And at this point, if you're ready, Stephen, we can go to the floor and take in some questions.
We can?
Sure. Okay. Let's do that. So I'm going to start at the top. I see Matthew at the very top. Hi, Matthew.
Hi, Ella. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Matthew.
Hi. It's I met you at the conference, and I just wanted to say,
Youre.
Yes.
Yes, I do remember you. You're a good man.
Yeah. Thank you. I was honored to meet you. Thank you for sharing your story. And I don't really have a question. I just wanted to say I'm glad that you didn't get into a physical altercation in Red Square. I'm glad you didn't get killed in Red Square. And I'm glad you had I'm glad you had that epiphany because that's meaningful because we're all up against this huge system, which is intractable and frightening, and we're sort of powerless against it, and it's hard to make that decision to fight this, but together as a group, especially when we start to bring people on our side, I think the good people outnumber the bad people, far outnumber. It's just a matter of getting them on our side. So I'm glad you made that switch, and I hope others will follow your example because we're starting to develop an army, and we need that kind of commitment. So I'm just really thankful. I'm honored to have met you, and I look forward to meeting you again someday soon.
Thank you, sir. The honor was mine. It was a pleasure meeting you, and the work that you've done for the community already is, it's been an inspiration to all of us. And seeing what people like you have done, sir, has made me decide, to stop running from it, stop trying to fight it on my own, to try to meet good people like you and others. And you're exactly right. if we all come together, right is on our side, and eventually the truth and right will win out. I do believe you're correct there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we are gonna win. It's just a matter of how much more suffering are people going to have to endure. But I think the snowball effect is already starting, and as we know with the snowball effect, as the snowball grows a little bit, the growth accelerates, and so I think we're going to see that happen. And we don't know how long it's going to take, but we know it's going to happen, and we need more people to follow your example. I guess if I had one question for you, I was just curious about. Are you willing to share? You talked about stalking and targeting in a general sense, but did you get the electronic harassment side of it? And have you gotten all the different kinds of electronic harassment? Was that happening in Europe as well?
Not so much, and to be honest, I can't say that I've had that like the electronic weapons that people speak of as much as they have. I think on occasion that I have. There's other aspects that I have had, and Matt, if I can tell you my intentions on this call, and I spoke with Ella about it a little bit earlier. My intention was because of the uniqueness of my story and who I ran afoul of back in Illinois, who had friends in the White House and such. I was leaning towards that side of my story because, personally, Matt, I think that for us to make any headway in this, I think that we have to get the community, the people to take interest in it, and I hear so many of the TI, and I know what's happening to us. I know it. I've lived it. But whenever we start telling the community that at large, they look at us like that we need help. I mean, and so my intention was to bring this to the public in a way they could see it. And see that if you just happen to run afoul or don't like a lawyer that wants to sleep with your child, etc., if you don't like that, this could happen to you next. Your family could be ripped from you, your assets stripped, your business is ruined. People kind of get it. They can get their head around that. You know what I'm saying? And that was the direction that I'm kind of working on in this group, etc., to reach out to people and show them something that they can get their head around. And then as we get them on board and see that there's something wrong here and that there are people that are being, then it was kind of my intention. Then we can kind of feed them a little bit more, start them out on the easy stuff, and then tell them, there are X-File type things, there's Star Wars type technology involved in this, and kind of bring them in slowly. I mean, that's my thoughts on it, Matt. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I agree. I agree with 100% with your approach, and each person has their own. You're developing your own. You're very effective, by the way, and in the way you told your story, and it's.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you.
Yeah, you're hitting a different angle too. You are emphasizing the global nature of it, and that is also a hurdle to get over in people's minds. But I think you've developed your approach really well, and I think you did what I've been kind of preaching is whenever we talk about this issue, even on the conference calls, we should act as if we are speaking to the general public because these calls are recorded, people are listening in. And so I think you did a great job. And
very well said, Matt. I couldn't have said it better myself, buddy. That's how I feel. Also, I mean, we all know. Anybody that's in this community knows the depth of the technology and the frightening, advanced technology that they have. The rest of the public does not know, and they just don't get it, Matt. So, I'm trying to show it to them in a way the tangible ways that it hit me, that people can understand. My family taken from me, my income, my businesses, my whole life ripped from me, and it could happen to you next. Is the way I kind of like to present it to the public, and they can get their head around that, and maybe it will bring some attention to us, Matt, and then we can move forward with, guess what else is going on. There's technology that y'all won't believe involved in this. So I hope that's a good way to go, Matt.
Yeah, it's a good way to go. Well, I hope to meet you in person soon in 2018. I'll try to make that happen. And thanks again, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, Matt. Take care.
Okay. All right. Okay. Bye.
Okay, Matthew, I'll go ahead and put you back on hold.
He's a good man. I met him at the conference. We hit it off real well. He's a really good man.
Oh, yeah, he's my partner. He helped start the freedomfortargeted.individuals.org, and we talk I just adore him. He's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful man. I agree. Stellar. Okay, so I'm going to come to California. Roland just disappeared off the call. Okay, California, I'm going to come to you. Hi, California.
Hi, Ella. It's Kendra in San Francisco.
Well, hi, Kendra.
Hi, you guys. Wow, Steve, your story is so scary and so sad. But, I mean, I like how you come back to the States and you say, you know what? I'm ready to fight this. I'm really proud of you, even though your story, you have to tell us some stuff about your history. You weren't always a nice guy, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't, it just doesn't matter. You are a human being. So I have a question, and I also have a message for Midge afterwards. My question, I think about the Europe trip that you were on, and when the gentleman said to you, forget Illinois, what kind of message do you think he was sending you? Because I researched for years about TIs. I've got a book that's going to be ready to go here in another month. I've taken about 100 background stories on 100 different TIs. They won't all be in my book, but some of them will. But I am finding there is one thread about this whole thing that is not being discussed, and that man said it, that he says, forget Illinois. So tell me what you think that meant. Can you kind of expound on that?
I can. And as I was telling Matt, Kendra, that the direction I was kind of going with this interview and to try to get the national attention, which they seem to be enthralled about politicians and what they're doing wrong and everything. So I thought that if I could take that direction, and that's where it started with me, I could get attention. But yes, I do think I know what he was talking about. I've been researching this for years now, and I read, I study it, and I'm a Christian. I read my Bible, and I look at eschatology, the whole works. That man was being honest. If you would have seen what I seen in him, and the people in Europe were different than they are over here, the man was giving me a clue, and he was trying to be helpful without giving me enough information. But he's telling me this targeting is not about your problems with those lawyers in Illinois, and that I should let that go because it has nothing to do with it. Now, in the same light, I'm going to tell you that I met Dr. John Hall down here in Texas. I went and met him personally. Dr. Hall said the same thing to me. He knew my story before I got there. How, I don't know, but he did. And whenever I talk to him, I like Dr. Hall. I think Dr. Hall knows a little bit more than what Dr. Hall's letting on anymore. I think that they have done him enough harm to where I just don't know. I shouldn't even say that. But Dr. Hall said the same thing. He said, Steve, that is what sent up the red flag on you. That is what got you noticed. And it's not why you're targeted. I've been told that several times. That man in Berlin was being honest. he's telling me that there's something deeper, there's something more sinister about this targeting, and it had nothing to do with that. That is where mine started, and if I can get the national press, if I can get national attention due to what took place there and get someone to take interest in my case, at that point I'm going to say, okay, you've taken interest in mine. I'm going to show you thousands of people that have the same problem. It's not just me. And so my intention was, with my unique story and the travels and the people I was involved with and my sordid past and everything, it may I pray that it will bring attention to us, and then we can get to the bottom of it, Kendra. That's my hope.
Okay, so I'll just I don't want to take a lot of time, but I will tell you from my research, and there's thousands of us now that have been doing our own research. So for me, what I'm trying to get to the point of all this is that I believe, from all the people I've interviewed, there has to be some kind of research program on us. And I believe it is connected to the NSA. And I believe that it happened because of the Patriot Act. So I just want to share with people, if everybody in your life is staying away from you, please consider that they have been handed national security letters on you, that there might be lies spread that you are a domestic terrorist. So that's something that people forget, that they're utilizing this tool. Now, two more things and I'll get off. One for Midge. Midge, I would love to volunteer. I would like to be in contact with you. And I am in San Francisco, and out of the blue, I am coming up with some of the most important technology people and civil rights attorneys that want to help our group. So I, for whatever reason, a year ago, I reached out to 100 different people that laughed in my face and said, "Lady, you're crazy. Go get some meds." But a year later, I'm now in touch with people who are apologizing to me and who are now saying, what you said is right. People are being hurt. People are being murdered. People are committing suicide. And now we can help you. So I want to be in touch with Midge. I think if we get the right people to sit in front of some of these human rights attorneys, that we're going to get the help that our group needs. And then my last thing.
Kendra, do you know how to get hold of Midge? Because we would like to have that information, ma'am.
Yeah, I have Ella connect Midge and me. Just this coming month, I want.
Kendra, excuse me.
Yeah.
Just go to targetedjustice.com.
Oh,
my
good.
Email.
Okay.
My email's there. Just send me an email if you want to talk on the phone. You can leave your phone number, and I will be happy to talk to you. This is what we're looking for. We're looking for people with information, anyone who will help. We have a legal department, and so what you'll do is you'll volunteer to work with that legal department. And we have someone in that legal department who, is in school to be an attorney. He already has this degree in many things, and I'm in that department as well. So we are looking for information. I have some attorneys that I know personally, but we are always looking for others. So, because we're going to go with the best. We're going to go with the very, very best.
Thank you, Kendra, thank you for coming forward, Kendra.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah. There's somebody here in San Francisco that is very famous, one of the most important attorneys of our time, and he knows this has been going on, and he is ready to dive in. So, having said that, let me just remind people that January is Stalking Awareness Month, and it's also Human Trafficking Awareness Month. I'm going to be working with Kayla. She's a TI here in California near me. We're going to try to do something next week. We're going to kind of do something, hand out flyers, educate our neighborhoods. So just want to let people know, maybe a flyer that states Stalking Awareness Month, and then, try to do something, even if it's little. It's just the month that we can all try to educate somebody, about these things that are happening. I'm finished. Thank you for so much time. I'll be in touch with you, Midge. Thank you. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you, Kendra. Yeah, get in touch with Midge. We would love to have your support.
Thank you, Kendra.
Yeah, it's time that we find the right attorneys, because I think they're ready. They needed some time to figure out if all these people were crazy or if this was really happening. And if the Chronicle newspaper in San Francisco begins to write stories about targeted people, which they're starting to do, that means this city is now ready to represent the people that are being hurt. So it is time. And I'll get off now. Let me start.
I just want to tell you, Kendra, I know two court cases going on now that are going very, very well, extremely well. And also, my brother is a target. And he at one time had a court case going on, and he had hired a friend of ours who's an attorney. And then after a while, she had to back off, and she said that she was paid a visit, and she was threatened with her life if she continued. So now, though, more and more of this is coming out, and the attorneys are not so afraid. It was just last year that there was an attorney who was representing a target, and he got his back broken. They set him up in a parking lot. They had bats, and they broke his back. So
well, Midge, the tide is turning.
But it's turning. That's what I'm saying. The tide is turning.
I think this group, and at this time, at this stage, at this time, in this group, is gonna make a difference.
It is turning. Absolutely, it is turning. But there's been reasons why it hasn't gone forward till now, because some of the attorneys have just been scared. But I think that is changing. So.
Well, it is scary, but there are so many nonprofits now that are reaching out to help even attorneys that are, facing this discrimination of helping our group. So, God, the weird thing that's happening right now, there's so many different organizations that are being well funded to help us, but we've needed a clearinghouse so that we could build a database. So, that's why I want to work with you guys, Midge. I've just come across, San Francisco is a hotbed for human rights. And so there's so many orgs here that are looking for us. They've been waiting for us, and they have grant money, too.
Yes, that's good.
Well,
All right.
We'll be glad to have your support, Kendra.
Well, I think it's time. In our lifetime, I will tell everybody on this call, in our lifetime, in the next few years, this stuff is going to be wide open, and this is going to stop. This cannot continue. And anyway, thanks for letting me talk, Stephen. Thank you for your story and bravery. And I'll get off now. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, I respect Kendra's opinion about maybe the CIA being involved. I personally, mine was a revenge campaign. I spoke out against a stalker and went to great lengths to stop him from stalking me. And I know another person just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. So I think there's various ways, not to say that the CIA is not watching and there's some human experimentation going on, but there are these security agencies just like Weinstein had, Harvey Weinstein. I think he used the Israeli mob to do dirty work for him. And they use the same tactics as what we experience. And so that's something you might want to look up online. So I do think some of it's just security, these celebrities or high-powered people like the person that's involved with my stalking. They enlist these companies to do this to us. So that's just my opinion. So I think it varies. It's across the board.
Well, I've got news for them. I know I myself and no one in this group that Midge has formed that we have got is afraid of them. We are taking it to them.
Yep. Okay, Michigan, I'm going to come up to you. Hi, Michigan.
Hi, Stephen. This is Hope. I haven't met you yet, but I've enjoyed corresponding with you, and I think that this group that Midge has put together is going to be amazing. And it was really good to hear your story. And I wanted to make a comment on that you're talking about the European guys that would come up to you and have drinks with you and stuff and
Yes.
kind of tell you stuff?
Yes, they would. They were completely different over there, Hope. They really were. They were not afraid to let me know
interact.
who they were, and they were actually hopeful in a weird way.
So here's something to think about. If you look at Catherine Horton's stuff, I think there's a big difference between the way that they treat men and they treat women. And this is a huge part of the stalking, I feel, is a real misogynistic trend in it. I mean, they have battered her from head to toe. No one's coming forward and saying, hey, let's hang out and have a beer.
Yeah, I do understand that.
I think that they trade on fear of rape and also just having glee attacking women. And so I think, I mean, I'm not saying that changes your situation at all. It's fascinating to hear your story, and I think it's very different for men and women, potentially.
It is. I believe you're correct in that respect. I think that the thing with me over there, if I was a European TI, maybe that wouldn't have happened at all. I think maybe there's few TIs that have that kind of money, or go trekking halfway around the world to find answers or to get away from it. I think that's
a good point.
They looked at me with some kind of a wild-eyed fascination. And look at this guy, Illinois to Texas to Mexico to France to Germany. This guy's something, So that may have been it. I mean, at first when they approached me, although they kind of let me know who they were doing the whole turtle thing. And as it went on, and I tried to treat them kindly, and they almost seemed sympathetic towards me and kind of gave me some clues. I didn't get it either. Hope that I used it to my advantage and tried to get as much information as I could,
Which was really smart. I mean, your whole story is like a movie. It's so fascinating.
Well, that's why I know, Hope, that I'm no more or no less than any other TI out here. We all are the same. But because of who I knew, my sordid past, the dealings with people that were connected to presidents and stuff. And then I had the money. I sold my businesses and trekked halfway around the world. My story being unique, it was time for me to come out of the woodwork and tell it, because it may bring some attention to our cause. And if that happens, my whole life has been worth living. If I can bring relief to you, to the other TIs, to shine some light on this, and that's why. I mean, I'm no more or less than any of the rest of it. I just have a unique story,
Well, I'm glad you shared it. I really appreciated it. So just wanted to let you know.
Hey, thanks for calling, Hope. Thank you.
Thanks, Hope.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put you back on mute. And come down to the next one, which is California. You'll hear that you're being unmuted. And if you want to, in case you don't know and you're new, just start 8 if you have a question. Hi, California.
Ella, it's Kendra. I already spoke, but thank you, honey.
Okay, thank you. I don't know why it showed up as soon as sometimes it does that. That's kind of a funny board. TalkShoe needs a little update. Okay, Minnesota, coming to you. Hi, Minnesota.
Hi, Steve. This is Deb from Minnesota.
Yeah,
I find it interesting that he said to forget Illinois, and my targeting happens to be a lot with the judicial system and revenge being used through the courts. And so I'm wondering, first of all, how this Tom Lakin, who is a prominent attorney and was working for this corrupt courthouse and generating money for them, was he set up? Like, how come he was incarcerated but these perpetrators don't ever get, held accountable for what they do?
Well, here's what I think on that. Because our federal law enforcement is corrupt, I believe that they are corrupt, that there's a different set of rules for those with that much money. That man, if you research him, that man gave millions of dollars to Democratic candidates in Senate. and for president and everything else, they are treated differently. The only reason that man was arrested and prosecuted was because me and a few handful of other people, which I don't even know that there were, but I don't take full credit for it, was because it was made public. I was even told this by law enforcement, that man never would have went down. They knew what he was doing, but they don't go after people like that. They have a different set of rules for them than they do us. And as a matter of fact, they use their power to protect people like that. And then once they do go down, they use the law as a weapon against people like me who exposed people like that. Is it right? No, it is not. It is not the way this country is supposed to work. It is taking a turn for the worst, and it needs to be exposed and stopped. You know, there's go ahead.
I'm sorry. Yeah, but I mean, I've had some cases here where, first of all, I filed a harassment. I was being workplace mobbed, and they were, you know, just really aggressive and making comments, sexual comments towards my 10-year-old daughter, and just very inappropriate things.
So sorry.
Yeah. And so then the targeting really started heavy after that. But then I had the neighborhood watch group come in, and then I had the harassment with the neighbors, and the police arresting me, no evidence. Then they would deny all my civil rights, and then they'd say I'm too mentally ill to stand trial. So I'd have to go to the mental illness part and have mental evaluations. And this is just a game to these people. So I'm just wondering, and the judge, you know, and they'd have these mock trials, and it would just be the neighbors and the judge, and nobody else would be in the courtroom, and just, you know, just nonsense. But so I'm wondering if the judicial system is so corrupt like that, you know, how is this going to be taken to court? You know what I mean? Like, how is this going to end? Like, this needs to end. How is that going to happen?
It does, and my thoughts on that, ma'am, are this, that they became so arrogant with their money, their power, and their influence that they've stepped over a line. You know, they thought that they could keep this under wraps like anyone else. Power corrupts, absolute power corrupts, absolute, but they stepped over the line. They thought that they could do anything to anyone at any time, just like that lawyer that I dealt with back there. He thought he was judge, jury, prosecutor, and that he was kingmaker of presidents and senators and such. Their arrogance will be their downfall. They've went too far. It's got too public. They can't do this to this many people. If it would have been one or two here and there, me, somebody else, they could have got away with it. They've went a bridge too far, and it's going to be the death of them.
Yeah, well, I'm just wondering, like, how can we get this to end? And if the courts are so corrupt, and if they have their own little FISA court or separate court, you know what I mean? Like these bogus national security letters that they're using to terrorize women, mainly a lot of women, single women, isolate them and terrorize them. How, you know, it's just such a mess. Like, I don't know, but it needs to end.
It is. Let me put it to you this way. There's been more powerful corruption in this world than this, going back many years if you read the history books and the Nazi Party and everything else. Right always tends to prevail. It doesn't always come quickly, and a lot of wrong has to happen before it does. And in this case, it has. But I think that they've overplayed their hands. They have become too arrogant. They have went a bridge too far. And not everybody in the judicial system is corrupt. Not every FBI agent, not every CIA agent. I think that the majority of them are, and if they want to get ahead, if they want to keep their jobs, their pensions, the good ones keep their mouths shut. But I think the tide is turning, and I think the good will prevail. So that is, you know, we have to look at it in that respect, and how we're going to do it. This group we formed, we're going to try to take it to them. We're going to try to rally all you folks. We're going to try to get your stories. We're going to get out there and take it to them. We're going to make them listen. You know, you know, the time is now, and they've went the bridge too far. That's my opinion. And their arrogance and their their corruption is going to be it will be the death of them. You know, it really will. The good will prevail. The right will prevail. This will end.
Yeah, I've always believed that truth will prevail.
Keep believing that, girl. We will win in the end.
Amen. Thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Minnesota. I'm going to put you back on hold. Okay. Now I'm going to come to California again. I think it's just showing me again. I'm going to go to New York. Hi, New York.
Hi, Steve. This is Susan. You're a TI fan from New York. How are you this evening?
Susan, my
Hi,
dear
Susan.
friend, how are you, dear? Susan's part of our group. She was at my house a couple of weeks ago. She's such a sweetheart. I love her.
And I have to let all you ladies know.
Cowboy. This is Cowboy, everyone.
This is Cowboy. I never thought. I've always wanted to go to Texas. I just never thought.
New York Cowboy.
The New York Cowboy. I just have to let you know what kind of guy Steve Baysden is. I first met him at the conference in Boston, and hopefully I'll get to tell my story. I'm writing it down in case something does happen to me. But my father-in-law had died under very questionable circumstances while living at my home here on Long Island. And, of course, things were orchestrated that his funeral just happened to happen on the first day of the conference in Boston. And as soon as I buried my father-in-law, I got right in the car and I drove up. And by the time I got to the location of the conference, it was dark out. And if those of you that had made it up to Boston, it was in the woods somewhere, and I got lost. So I'm crying on the side of the road, mourning my father-in-law, being in the car for 4 hours. And Steve got in his car and drove through the woods, finding me. And he said, "We're never going to leave one of us. We're not going to leave one of us behind." And he got in his car and found me in the woods because the GPS was not taking me to the location. So this guy, you may be from Illinois, but you're a true Texas cowboy, a true Texas gentleman. And I thank you for coming to get me out of the woods, Steve.
Thank you, Susan. It is my pleasure to know you. You're a wonderful gal, and it's my pleasure to know you and work with you in this group. It really is.
And you too, Steve, and everybody that is listening. We go through some times where things are so horrific that we can't fathom the level of evil that's involved with this program, or people that could possibly be so devoid of any kind of moral compass to perpetrate these crimes against innocent people. But with Steve and Midge and Christy and Dolly and Richard and Greg and you, myself, we're getting together, and Doug in Illinois as well. There is a sense always of hope. And we honestly believe that no matter what, this has to go forward. We have no other choice. We cannot leave this to continue for another generation.
That's exactly right, Susan. We're gonna expose them. We're gonna take it to them.
It needs to be exposed, and I think if we take it to, some of the callers have touched in, and a lot of it is being exposed. That so much of this program is being funded with the United States taxpayer dollars. If the general public just knew it from a financial perspective, that their tax dollars were going to fund an insidious program by the deep state, I think they'd be up in arms. And
I agree.
Yeah, so just thank you. I just wanted to call in and let everybody know what a great guy you are. This guy, he'll give the shirt off his back. He gave up his kitchen. He gave up his kitchen, and he allowed us to rearrange his plate to a more convenient location.
I still can't find my dishes. They rearranged all my cabinets. They said I had them all in the wrong place. So it's just it tickles me every time I go to get a coffee mug or a plate. I can't find anything.
Yeah, but thank you so much. And just another aside, that I know that so many female targets come forward and talk about their victimization and their attacks. There probably are again, I was talking to Ramola about this, and she said, we're not quite sure. It's just that women tend to be more verbal about what's happening to them. And a lot of guys tend to cover it up or not want to investigate or turn a blind eye to it. So I'm so grateful that Steve is coming forward as one of the guys. We need more guys like him, more guys to come out and stand up and tell their stories, because we really do need to unify. God only knows how many thousands of us there are around the country. Millions probably around the world, but just in our country, thousands of us that need to come together once and for all. So, Ella, I thank you so much for all the work that you've been doing. Your podcasts have been wonderful, so informative.
Thank you. Thank you, Susan.
You're always uplifting. It's not. I never hang up the phone depressed when I listen to one of your shows. I'm like, okay.
We need hope. We need hope, Susan. And there's a lot of genuine, tangible hope now. So I agree. And, and we can still be supportive, even in the darkest of moments. I see that light in people, and there is goodness in people. And we got to stick together, and we need to help one another. We're like a family, families can be rough and very difficult to handle sometimes, but,
absolutely.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Susan.
Yeah, but thank you. And Steve, I'm just going to say goodnight as I put my shielding on and my Dwight Mangum grounding kit before I get to bed.
Susan, you're the best. Thank you for the call.
And my silver fabric over my brain. Oh, yes, I'm trying everything. But one thing that you said is that light always prevails. It might not happen as quickly as we would like, but light will prevail, and together we will do this.
We will indeed, Susan.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you, Susan.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay, now I'm going to come down to Florida. She's very nice. She's supposed to be interviewed next week, guys, so Susan should be there. I believe it's next week, tentatively, in pencil. Okay. Hi, Florida.
Hi, it's Adrian. I found your story really interesting because mine was revenge related also, but also that mine was also revenge related, and it has a union component to it. And what I found interesting was that you couldn't find jobs when you were driving your truck. Do you think the fellow that did this to you or that could have influenced the union that you were involved in?
Well, at the time, I wasn't involved in a union, ma'am. I owned my own tractor trailer, so I was just working with brokers and contractors. And if someone needed a load hauled, I was the man. I would take it. We would negotiate a price. I would take it or I would not. And in the beginning, I hauled very high-paying loads, oversized loads into Canada, halfway across the country, all the way across. And as time went on, when this happened to me, the loads got worse and worse. I couldn't get the good loads, and then in the end, I was shut down completely. When the last place that I went when I was in Texas, I went to them, and they were happy to work with me. You have to go through a couple of days of paperwork before you can haul loads for people, and everything was going smooth. And then one day I went back in there, and it was over. They had gotten wind of me being there, and somebody went in there, and it shut down. I mean, it was over. I mean, there was, and it happened one place after another, and it was obvious I was not going to get any more work for my truck. It was, it was obvious that these are powerful people, and they've got the backing of the federal law enforcement, who is using the law as a weapon to take down people that offend people with money. I mean, it doesn't matter if you did anything wrong. As a matter of fact, it's about if you expose someone that did something wrong, you're the bad guy. You're the one that's going to pay the price. So things are all backwards in this country right now, and they need to be straightened out.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, and I agree with you totally. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you, Adrian. Okay, I'm going to come to Connecticut. Hi, Connecticut.
Hi, Ella. It's Connie.
Hi, Connie.
Hi. Hi. I also appreciate you sharing your story. It is fascinating because you were, on a different side that many of us weren't. But I have a couple of questions. One question is, what brought you to Texas? Because a lot of this stuff, if you go back in history, like the Patriot Act, George Bush Jr. put into after 9/11, and his father was head of the CIA before he was our president. And, Chip, there's a guy named Chip who was like Special Forces military who used to fly planes for the cocaine in South America. And the Bush was on the plane. Or he went to one of the locations, and George Bush Sr. was sitting there dipping his finger in the cocaine and tasting it, But so, anyways, the Bushes are in Texas, and
right.
And so, are you afraid of? Are you aware that the Bushes are were heavily involved in a lot of the corruption and the Nazi agenda and all this stuff?
Yes, ma'am, I am. The reason I came here, I realized that there are powerful people here in Texas. Here where I'm at in Winsboro, Texas, East Texas, it's heavily Bible belt. It's conservative. People believe in God and guns. I didn't think that the county authorities, even the FBI, would pull this down here in Texas, but they do because it's influenced by the feds. And when it's the feds and the feds step in and tell the local and county law enforcement, this guy's no good for whatever reason, they step back and they let them do what they want to you. So there is no getting away from it. I mean, I chose East Texas because it's beautiful. It was a tax. They got no income tax. I love East Texas is beautiful. There was a lot of work down here for a man that owns a flatbed tractor trailers with the oil industry, et cetera. Texas has got good work. That's some of the reasons I chose. But, ma'am, I have learned, I have been all over this country doing work and all over Canada, Mexico, France, Germany, and Russia. There is no getting away from it. The only way to get away from this is to end it.
Right.
That's it.
So my other question to you is, are you aware of National Liberty Alliance? Because it sounds like you have a lot of evidence, and because of your inside knowledge and background and, everything that went on, National Liberty Alliance, I don't know if you're familiar, they literally have thousands of members, and they have chapters in every county of the United States, and they're about common law because our court system is rigged. It's a kangaroo court system, and the outcome, or if you have a case, if a lawyer will take your case, the outcome is predetermined. And with court cases, they go out for bidding, and there's a bid bond, a bail bond, and a something else bond, and they're being bought up supposedly by China and Japan, and they pay exorbitant amounts of money, and when they pay the bond, the performance bond or bid bond, the court actually gets the money. So they get issued like a 1098 or 1099 for income. So they're making money off the cases. And anyways, National Liberty Alliance is about using common law because it's our God-given right for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And if you go to their website and you scroll down about halfway on their front page, you'll see court-filed federal papers. And in one of them, they're naming Trump. And in pages 18 through 25, they talk a lot about, how our rights are being violated by these three-letter agencies who have a backdoor into everybody's router, tablet, computer, smartphone. They have a backdoor into all of them. So anyways, they help people for free, and once they file a case in one federal court, they're considered in all federal courts in all states. And they were also involved in the Lavoie Finicum assassination, where the FBI was involved at the standoff and stuff, and they ambushed Lavoie Finicum and they killed him.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll have the legal department look into that. I've been to so many lawyers, so many organizations, from the ACLU to to the Rutherford Institute, to you name it. I mean, I've got a list of them here, half a mile long, and every one of them just slammed the door in my face. I mean, whenever the CIA or the FBI or the NSA beats you to their door and tells them that you are some kind of national security threat, and that if they take you as a client, that they're going to suffer repercussions, they just won't do it. But I think it's getting old at this point. I think that people are starting to see the light. They're seeing that there's something wrong here. There's too many of them. As I said, they've went a bridge too far. Our intelligence agencies and what they're supposed to be doing is protecting us, and they're protecting people with power and money, no matter what they do wrong. And I think the truth is coming out. The tide is turning. I think the time is right. I think that we will win in the end. Will it be as fast as we would like? Probably not. As fast as I would have liked would have been about 8 years ago. But we will win in the end, ma'am.
Right. Well, one other thing. A lot of lawyers, their first obligation is to the court. Their second obligation is to their client. And many lawyers, like a TI, I know she hired a lawyer, and after he took her $3,000, he got scared because he got threatened and he backed out. But anyways, these people, National Liberty Alliance, they're not lawyers, but they write like lawyers. They're really good. You should see their documents, their court file documents. But these people know what they've been doing, and they've been doing it for decades. And anyways, they're not afraid. They're not afraid of these people. And at one point, the Vatican wanted to fund them to support them, and they said no, because a lot of these ACLU and everything, they're all controlled by the elite. I contacted the ACLU when I blew the whistle and experienced harassment at the FDA. They were like, what do you want us to do to help you? I'm sorry, we can't help you. And it's like, what's wrong with you people? They're ruining my life. They're trying to assassinate me. They're following me. They hacked into every device, and you can't do anything, So anyways, there's a National Whistleblowers Association, and that's rigged too. They're all rigged. They're all controlled. But I'm telling you, National Liberty Alliance, you should really look into them, because they're about Thomas Jefferson, the Bill of Rights, we the people. And, so they named like every governor, and they know about the corruption. But I think the information that you have could also help them. So I think they could help you, and you could help them.
We will look into that, ma'am. I thank you for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, guys. I'm going to go ahead and mute Connie. I'm going to come down to the next one. I see Florida, Tampa. Hi, Florida.
Hello, Steve. This is Christina.
Hi.
Florida.
Well, the reason you're so important to me is because I'm in Chicago, and
right.
you're one of me. I've been in the system about 10 years over somebody that you would call, that you thought was a friend or friends, and, But anyways, so we were staying in California, highly terrorized. And, I found one attorney out there, but we had decided to come back home because financially work wasn't that good, and we still had the house in Chicago. And, so I started looking for attorneys here. And I got the same thing like you. Has anything kind of turned over, like as far as getting a hold of an attorney in Illinois that might be willing to take your case?
Ma'am, it's my experience that Illinois is one of the most corrupt states in the Union, and Cook County and Madison County, where I was and where you are two of the most corrupt.
Right.
Unfortunately, until this breaks open, when it does, I think that there won't be an attorney you won't be able to get. They'll be beating your door down. But until it does, They're not going to touch us. I mean, whenever the federal government is telling them, you take this person on as a client, your career is over, they will not do it. I mean, and that's basically what I'm understanding is taking place here.
There's so much corruption here. In fact, those acquaintances threw me against the door. The ones that I know for sure. There's no other enemy I've ever had in my life. I always try to get along with people, and if I don't, I walk away. It's just as simple as that. It's better to put on any kind of agony as far as why get into violence if you and them cannot. If you meet people and you don't get along with them, it's best to walk away. And that's what
That's good advice, ma'am, and hang in there. I think that the tide is turning here. And groups like our own here and people like Ella and other prominent TIs around the country, we're pushing as hard as we can. I think the dam is about to break, and whenever it does, the truth will come out, and then you will be able to find an attorney. I have a feeling the attorneys will be beating your door down. So hang in there, girl. I think
Steve, I have not claimed. Well, I have signed some petitions online for Illinois and for California. California told me that I didn't have enough of anything or enough bills to prove that this was going on. In Illinois, I just signed a petition. But other than that, well, forget the police department. They're not going to do anything. Because they're part of the problem. So if you, they look at you like, if I went to my district police station, I wanted to claim that what was going on, which I have in the past, and they just looked at me like I was crazy. And I'm sure that I'm on that list, just like every other TI. And
we are, ma'am. And here is the problem. Not everybody in law enforcement or even the FBI or the CIA or the NSA are bad. But what's going on here, it's as Catherine Horton says, that it's in deep capture. Whenever you get enough bad people at the top, there's no one below them that can make a move. I mean, it will ruin their careers. They will become one of us, and they know that. So there are good people in there. It's just in deep capture. We have bad people in powerful places that are doing the wrong things. But I do believe those people are going to be exposed, and good will prevail, and the right people will take over these institutions that are responsible for this. So.
Well, I don't know if it makes you feel any better, but I was reading on some religion today, and they were saying that targeted individuals are the chosens of God. So pretty much we will, we can't get, how would you say, honored or cheered for what we're going through, the pain I'm going through with my body, and I'm usually, pretty energetic and everything type person, and I have slowed down because of the pain, I've got in me. But, what I don't understand is it's kind of like the political is blaming it on that this is the Bible. Why do you think that is, that they're trying to mix it on saying that, well, this is the end of time, and this is why who is targeted is going through this? I don't understand why they're mixing, two things in life. You don't mix religion and politics, or you don't argue over either or. So why are they trying to blame this on, religion, or the Bible itself? It has nothing to do with it. Do you think so, or what?
Well, ma'am, I'm a Christian, and I do study the Bible and eschatology, and if you're a Christian, you can't separate the two. So your devout Christians, the people that are believers, they can't separate the two, and the Bible speaks of this. Things will get evil, right will become wrong, wrong will become right. So, if you're a believer, read that Bible, and you know who wins in the end. So, right will prevail. So,
I was born and raised Catholic, but I changed over to a born-again Christian in 2007. And I don't think Christ wants anybody to do this to anybody.
No,
because it says, thou shalt not destroy my children, okay? Or you will be condemned. So, I just think these people, whoever, like mine started over, like I said, as acquaintances. And I don't think, and another thing for Ella's question is that if something really comes down to where, there's going to be, okay, so all the people got to go somewhere, will she announce that, like say something was really happening where we want everybody down at the city hall of your state or city to write down your name, your birth date, because, we want to make sure that everybody is cleared. Their name is cleared. I mean, will she announce that, or will, something happen? Because...
Well, I believe that Ella would. I mean, if something breaks like that, you can bet that Ella will be the first one out there to let the people know that. I'm sure she would. You can speak to her yourself on that, but I'm sure she would.
She's a wonderful woman. You are a very wonderful woman, Ella. I mean, without you, I don't know what I'd do, because for, 9.5 years, I have been doing this alone because I didn't know what this was. Because, like I said, I had no enemies. I never made any enemies, and I serviced my many communities because I was a general contractor in doing home remodeling. And I made really good friends with my customers and never hurt anybody, and it's like, what is this all going on? It's like all this bad luck hit me at once, But with you, I don't know, I would still be like alone, kind of, You're not alone, ma'am. You're not alone. There are thousands of us like you, and you're not alone. Keep in touch. Stay on the internet. Keep in touch with our website that we've brought up. Right. And we'll try to keep you informed, and we are working hard on your behalf, okay? Yeah.
You are not alone, ma'am. Don't think that for a minute.
Well, what I meant by alone is in my house, my husband didn't believe this just until recently. And I told him, 2014, I said, I feel like somebody's got a hit on me. I didn't know what until 15. When we made it to California, I put in the internet. I am being harassed. I'm getting harassment phone calls. I went on and on. And my house keeps on getting robbed. So on. Says, have you ever heard of gang stalking? And when I read everything, sure. And you know what? It didn't shock me. It didn't shock me because of the corruption. And these people that I did take to court that got me on this list somehow, I brought them to court. And I seen they were in trouble previous. That judge took them off of probation. He knocked everything up, and then he blinked his eye, and then he shook his head up and down. Oh, if you don't call that corruption, what can you, So, and then it happened again regarding another situation. So I'm keeping these dates of everything that's happening. So I've even had corruption done by a doctor in California. But, I am so thankful to everybody that's putting this together, and if there's any help that I could give, because there is not any, as that I know of any meetings in Chicago. Are you aware of any?
I am not, ma'am. I recommend that anybody that is hearing this to try to band together, to try to do as we're doing, to try to fight this on your own. You will just be dismissed. To try to put together community groups, at least to support each other, to be there for each other. So, I'm sure that there are a lot of TIs in the Chicago area. You all need to at least have meetings in your homes to where you can support each other and have some semblance of some kind of fellowship.
Now, you were mentioning something about somebody that said something, forget Illinois. What do you think they meant by that?
I think that they meant that it had nothing to do with why I am targeted, and that was my take on it. I mean, I couldn't get any more out of the man, but he wasn't the only one that's told me that. It's either that, or they're trying to scare me off from pursuing this any farther. Because, Ellen, I didn't say this earlier. There are others back in Illinois that were involved in the same type of things, powerful people, other attorneys, and I know they will be hearing this, and they need to know I will expose them too. I will. So.
Yeah, because when I was on attorneys in Illinois, they were just like, laughing, like, hey, this is a really crazy woman, and because I was telling them everything I had gone through, and they said, a couple of them even told me I need help. Oh, yeah, I need help. The people are doing it and need the help, Oh,
I understand, ma'am. Hang in there. Try to unite with some other TIs in your community for support.
That lady that was talking about, I want to join that, where I could get on the list with that attorney that she's recommending. Go on to our website, targetedjustice.com. Go on there. It says that it is not available yet. That was last week.
It's up Tuesday. It's up now.
Oh, it is up. Okay, good, yeah.
Midge, are you on?
Okay.
Yes, I am.
What's her name? Midge, you said?
Yes.
Midge? Yeah, I like to talk to her about so that she could tell me how I could put together, some kind of thing going for targeted individuals. Maybe even we got a thing called Meetup. I'm sure one of you's heard of that.
Yeah.
We could all meet up at for coffee and, do some kind of little group thing or something like that. Because as far as I know, there is none, support groups here, So I'm willing to help, I'm another, I'm in. Okay, thank you, Steve. Thank you, Paula.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hang in there. Okay, so I have time for a couple more questions here. I'm going to go to North Wisconsin and then California. Hi, Wisconsin.
Yeah, hi. This is Deb.
Hi.
And, hey, thanks for the great job you guys are doing. And I was just wondering, you have my information, right?
Do I, ma'am? I
think Ella does.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Could you pass that on to them since I always seem to have computer issues? Please.
Will you send me an email so I know your address? Because I know about 6 Debs.
Oh, okay. It's Deb Olson. And I don't care if my name is out there because, if I'm going to die anyway, I might just well die trying to straighten it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Just take it day by day and do everything you can to fight. That's all we can do.
Oh, yeah. And also, I just wanted to mention that I got Dave's CD. I don't have the headsets yet. But my dogs, I just turned it on the CD player. My dogs have been going in and sleeping in the bedroom during the day or, like, at night when I'm up and doing stuff. and they never did that before. And I thought that was really interesting, and I know that they can affect our pets. And so I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. Just an
that's interesting, ma'am. Thank you for sharing that.
And I'm thinking about turning it on in the bedroom, but the stereo system's a little weird, so who knows. But anyway, and also I wish I was closer to that woman in Illinois, because I would be happy to hook up with her, but I can't go anywhere with having the guys, and that I'm kind of like stuck here, you know. But if you want to pass my name and phone number on to anybody in my area that would like to come over, I mean, the place is kind of a disaster, but, you know, we're there to talk and stuff, not, you know what I mean? And
yes, ma'am.
So if you want to pass my phone number on to anybody, go for it, because I'm around at night. Of course, I'm always listening to the calls and trying to educate myself, because I didn't realize what was going on for so many years. I was like in the dark, and then when everything really went bad, and I just happened to fall in, but I don't even know how, but I did. And it's like, whoa, that sounds like me in my life. What's this, you know? And so many things, just like the vehicle thing that somebody was talking about. You know, yeah, I had that, but I didn't even think anything of it. I just figured, okay, things go wrong, other than weird stuff. When our Dell went, they had some weird smell in our truck, our Yukon. And it made both me and my husband sick. And the truck, at the same time, the truck wouldn't start, and it wouldn't run right, so we called the mechanic, and we had it towed over to his place. And he had to throw the mats and everything out, and he says, I don't know what was in there, but, it was awful. And he got rid of and he says, sorry about having to get rid of your car mats, but, you know, I just had to, because I couldn't have it in the shop with that. And so, you know, it's like a lot of odd things like that, and it's so eye-opening. And
yes.
I've met a lot of people that are targets, but I don't think they want to believe that they are, that this stuff is going on. Like my mother, for one. I mean, sometimes she seems like she gets it, and then other times she's so opposite, it's like, okay, never mind. We don't need to talk about this now. And maybe, this sounds out there, but I have this feeling that she's probably really mind-controlled when it switches like that. Like they don't want her to wake up.
You know, there's a lot of people that are in denial. They don't want to admit that this is going on. A lot of people are living it and you know, without the answers and without support, and that's why we're trying to make a difference here for you all, ma'am.
Yeah, and I tried to email for the free pamphlets, and computer issues and printers, doesn't work, about the free pamphlets to hold out. I don't know if that went through, but I don't know if Ella or someone could check on that. And the email address is ewclearclue@yahoo.com.
Thank you, ma'am.
And, yeah, hey, thank you guys so much for doing what you're doing, and I'll get off of here. I'm too long-winded. I talk too much.
No worries. Don't worry.
Thanks so much.
No need to talk. Thanks, Deb. Okay, so I'm going to come down. I'm going to try and get down. I want to get Elvira, too. I'll do California and then Elvira. Okay, go ahead, California.
Hi. I have a question for you, Steve.
Yes, ma'am.
When you were in Europe, were you like doing contracting business? Did you get a contract that you were over there? You were just over there visiting or working?
No, ma'am. Whenever I came to Texas and they ruined my last business, and I still had money, and to be honest with you, I just wanted out. I wanted to get away. I was so disappointed here in Texas that it followed me here. I wanted answers, and to be honest with you, I had a pocket full of money, and if I would have found a foreign country that this didn't take place in, I probably would have stayed, and it didn't happen. I learned a lot. It was an experience. I really learned a lot, and I learned this also. You cannot run from this.
Yeah, I from the powerful families, I know that rule. Well, that being said, you noticed that the targeting was lessened. What did these people share with you discreetly or indirectly that tipped? Because they're not having the net neutrality being taken away from them. Our country is the only one doing that to shut us up and quiet us, to get rid of people's medical license, law license, doing everything to stifle everything that we are trying to do. But they are running out of time. We are gaining momentum. We know that. It's just a matter of time before they get caught on the carpet. Who, when, what, why, when, where. But can you share anything about what they said in Europe about what they perceive? Because when they're outside the box like that, they know things far more than we do, because our press is, of course, being ruled and monitored and run by, our government. We know that.
Well, what I believe and what I learned in Europe, that it was no different. As a matter of fact, Berlin, a place that shouldn't allow this at all, East Berlin, with their history of the Nazis and the Stasi, it was worse there than it was anywhere. And any of these NATO aligned countries, especially the Five Eyes countries, but any NATO aligned country is going to do the same thing. I was just amazed that whenever I went to Russia, that it took place there. I wouldn't think that the long arm of the law of the United States would be able to do that. So as much as the United States and Russia doesn't get along, they seem to get along just fine whenever it comes to this nonsense.
That's convenience, yeah, exactly. Well, that being said, the other question I have is, being a truck driver like my dad used to be, and of course they took him out, suspicious circumstances, when I decided to become a whistleblower. I was not afraid for them to come after me, but to come after my father, who was a truck driver, going nationwide, truck driving, and in all kinds of circumstances, surviving. Well, that being said, you probably met a couple of drivers in these underground tunnels that go all the way from the United States to Europe to Asia to the Middle East to underground the sea floor. Had you met any of those drivers with the Walmart connections that they drive in these underground FEMA locations that they stock up and all this stuff?
No, ma'am. I have heard of such things. Now, whenever I was running my truck, I did a lot of contracting for the government, and I went to a lot of secure places, including where we store our nuclear weapons. I have been to some underground facilities, but I've never seen tunnels that connect across the country. Now, I wouldn't doubt that they have them, but I can't speak to that. I really don't know.
Did you see anything irregular, or did you get a sense of talking to people, other drivers or whatever, that they might have shared some basic information, which I found out from some of them, what they shared truth with me, which was quite shocking?
They shared it in what respect, ma'am, that they knew what?
Just underground stuff that the government, that's why they create these tunnels to do things, in an insidious way to hide from the general public what is going on, what's being delivered where, when, what, and how.
Well,
disasters or whatever the case may be.
As I said, I know that we have locations around the country that they have underground, basically underground cities, underground storage, etc. As far as tunnels that connect them, I don't know. They very well could have the technology that they have. There are very intelligent people that say that the technology that the state has, the dark state, the deep state, our intelligence agencies, is 100 years in advance of what the private sector has. Ma'am, I wouldn't doubt that they have such a thing. I don't have any knowledge of it. And
California. Okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
In California, what's his name? The one head of Tesla. He had
Elon Musk.
Yeah, thank you. Elon Musk had shown that he has sold 15 or 15,000, I don't know which, of these electric battery semis that can run on just pure energy, and that he was building these new tunnels in LA to go like LA to San Francisco, and Tesla was a part of these bullet trains like they do in Asia and whatnot, where they can go 10,000 miles an hour underground. So that's already in the making in the infrastructure. So I think when Trump's bringing up about the infrastructure, I think maybe that's what he's going to roll out, because he is seizing assets he is doing legislation or some kind of action of seizing assets against these people that are committing human rights atrocities against us American citizens. So
California, I just have a couple of minutes left, so if you can finish it up.
So I just want anybody else's opinion on that.
Ma'am, that is beyond the scope of my research or my knowledge.
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt that they have such a thing, but I have no knowledge of it.
Anybody else want to share what they might know about this civil forfeiture of...
This is an interview. This is an interview, so maybe on a different call. Let's talk about it on the open.
I see.
Okay.
Well, thank you for sharing your story and your bravery. I really applaud you for that. Keep doing what you're doing and never give up. The good heart that you have, and everybody on here, I just really commend everybody. Hang in there.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, California. I have one more person I'm going to unmute because I'm going to also ask for some support for her. So I'm going to go down to Elvira. Hi, Elvira. She may not be there.
Greetings. I'm here.
You're there, honey. Good.
Yeah, this is Ella's call. Where else I'm going to be? Thank you, Ella. I just wanted to say thank you to Steve. I tell you, I joined this group in October of 2010, and there has been no hope, only pain and more suffering, seemed like to me. And now you have you, Midge, Ella, and the other ones have just given me hope, and I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for myself and all the others.
You're welcome, ma'am. Ma'am, hang in there. We're going to try to make a difference.
Yes, and I want to thank you for that.
You're welcome, ma'am. I pray that we'll make a difference for you, and I hope that we really can. Hang in there.
It will. I feel it. It will, definitely. And I want to thank you all.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And Elvira is looking. I do want to ask for some support for Elvira. She's in South Florida. If anybody's in South Florida and you can be of assistance to her in any way, she's kind of in a bad situation. And she definitely has some health issues. And she's been a long-time activist, and she's definitely done a lot for this community. And she's the one who found Mark Rubio and got him involved, and different people like that. So she's done a lot of stuff for this community, and she's a special lady. If you want to email me at tiangel2016@gmail. If you're in that southern Florida area, that would be great, and it would be excellent to kind of get her some assistance. So thank you.
That would be really nice. If anybody can help her, she sounds just like such a sweet lady.
She's very sweet. Okay, guys. So, Steve, I just have to say thank you for everything. I usually end like on a positive note, but you guys already have that there. I'm so grateful that you worked so hard to develop this group that you're working with, and anything I could do to contribute, I'm there, and I've offered to help already, and I'd love to participate. And everyone, thank you so much for coming. And after this is Kyle's call, and again, he's one call that doesn't typically have too many problems, and he's a very sweet man and very supportive. So if you'd like to go to Kyle's call, his number is, my brain's a little funny today. So his call number is 142-394. Again, it's 142-394-5444. 142-394. 142-394 and then £1 like you got into mine. And Friday tomorrow on Revolution Radio, I'm going to be interviewing an ex-FBI agent and a director. He's not a TI, but he knows a lot about the FBI and the workings of it, and he goes on the news and gives his input about some of the events that happen. And but I'll definitely bring it up to him. I'll definitely see if I can get him to be interested in our cause. That's what I try to do. So, and if you want to get to it, you can go to freedomslips.com and Studio A, and that's at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then if you guys want to, if you need more calls or whatever the case may be, there's wonderful church calls. There's Dr. Melissa Black. She's just a beautiful human being. She's wonderful. Got a great call on Saturdays, as well as everyone on here I support. So you can go to freedomfortargeted.individuals.org, and at the bottom of every page I have all the calls and all the podcasts. So on that note, I want to say again, thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Yaya. I really appreciate it so much that you guys were here, and God bless.
Ella, let me thank you for all you do for the TI community, and thank you for letting me get my story out.
No problem. No, it was been my pleasure. Thank you, guys. Good night, everybody.
Ma'am.
Good night. Thank you.
So maybe to give back, let's go back, to the beginning, and even maybe a little bit before. Like, I know you had a very interesting life. So do you want to start from there, like when you were young and what you were involved with and how you came to be such the good man that you are today?
Well, I thank you for that, Ella. I'll leave that for others to judge whether I'm a good man. I do try to be a Christian now. I haven't always been. Going back to for a little bit of a backstory, it might give people a little bit of insight. It's going a ways back, but back in my 20s and up to my mid-30s, I belonged to and was an officer of a fairly notorious motorcycle club in Illinois, and was involved in the cocaine trade and everything else that went with that kind of lifestyle. And for that, not saying that I'm proud of it, but the relevance of that is the deeper that I got into that lifestyle and into the drug trade, the more powerful people that I've met. And you wouldn't think it would be that way, and it shouldn't be that way, but it is. And so when we progress through the story a little bit, if people wonder how I knew this person or that person, in a lot of ways, in a lot of instances, it was from that time. It was from my life in the underworld as it was, and the deeper I got into it, the more powerful people you meet. And it got to the point that one of the reasons that I even got out of it, among other things, and my first wife leaving me because she was tired of the nonsense, and it got to the point that you couldn't tell good guys from bad guys whenever you start realizing that the CIA and other people that are supposed to be taking care of this country are actually more interested in taking over the drug trade, et cetera. It was time for me to move on and wise up. At which point I did, and started turning my life around. And anything that I ever did, I always did with a lot of gusto.
Determination and 100%. Yeah, you're very best.
I did, and so I took that and I started trying to build an honest life and began going to church, reading my Bible, etc. That was a long, slow process, my conversion. I mean, whenever you went down the wrong road as far as I did, you don't just turn it around overnight, or at least I didn't. It was a long, slow process, but I was well on my way. And I took that drive that I had, and I started trying to do things right, and I built a little bit of a real estate business, starting with one rental property, and built it up, and had, at one time I had 6 or 8 of them at once, I think. Nothing big, just duplex, little fourplexes, single properties, etc. And had one guy that worked for me full time that took care of the rental properties, and I would buy houses, distressed houses, and fix them up and resell them. And had my own truck. I always drove a truck for a living for other people, for the Teamsters, etc., hauled cars and various other jobs. But I decided to buy my own truck, and whenever I did that, it was successful. And your own truck is there's good money in it if you do it right and you haul the right equipment. And between the 2 jobs I was doing, between the 2 businesses, I was bringing in anywhere from $200,000 to $250,000 a year, and it was doing real good. And I was on my way. I mean, things were getting better. Was I a saint? No, I still had my issues at times. I still like to party once in a while and such, but I was far removed from who I used to be, and was in the right direction anyway. And the money I earned was all honest, and I helped a lot of people. Bought a home for my mother at one point. I helped pay other people's bills whenever they were down and out. I let people move into my house, guys that I had known in the past that were pretty good guys that were down on their luck. I let them. I had a pretty good sized house, and would let people stay with me for a while to get on their feet. I tried to do the right thing by people, and that all kind of changed whenever something happened, something took place that was the beginning of my targeting. So
let's do that. Let's approach that and go into that with detail. I'd love to hear that, and I'm sure they would too. Kind of what happened and the man that you encountered, and basically what went down.
Well, there were, as I said, the people that I had known from that lifestyle. Some of them were pretty powerful people, and one of them was a lawyer, and I don't think that it would hurt to mention his name. His name splashed all over the internet and the newspapers anyway, and he ended up being arrested and going to prison. So damage was done there. But his name was Tom Lakin, and at one time we were acquaintances, let's put it that way, and I had even attended parties at his home, and etc. He was a very, very powerful man. If anybody cares to Google him, it's Tom Lakin, Lakin, and you can see a little bit for yourself. He was friends with.
And also online it shows that he was arrested and he was convicted of crime. So that's not slander. That's actually a fact.
No, it is, and we've spoken of this earlier, and we're going to try to avoid. I will do my best to avoid names of people that I know that were involved in things they shouldn't have been, and equally as bad as that weren't arrested or prosecuted, because the way things are now, Ella, it isn't the truth that is important. It's what you can prove or disprove in a court of law, which is sad, but that's the way it is. And anyway, that man back, I guess it was it would have been about 98, somewhere around 98. I ran into a couple of guys that I knew from my past that were still friends, that I was kind of out of that lifestyle. They came to me, or they came and found me. I forget how that went down. But anyway, they came to me and told me that they had been at a party at Lakin's house, and that they knew that they seen my daughter there. And that was whenever my daughter was right at 17, 18 years old, and I got angry about it. And I from that point on, I proceeded to out that guy for who he was, who I knew he was. Everybody knew that he had a thing for the underage. boys, girls, it didn't matter. But he had a thing for the underage, and shame on all of us for ignoring him because of who he was and how powerful he was and his money. So whenever it hit home to me, most people were afraid to even speak out about him. I wasn't, and you see where it got me. We'll get into that as it goes on, but I spoke out about him. I went out and I told people, keep your kids away from him, keep away from him. He's no good. He's not what he seems, and especially keep your kids away from him. Well, anybody that I spoke to, that mentioned him or his name come up, that's when I had said, I ended up even buying a house on the same street he lived on not because he lived there, and it was in spite of that. It was a beautiful neighborhood. It was the place to be if you lived in that part of Illinois, and so I bought a house up there about 4 houses down from him on the opposite side of the road. And after living there for a while, word got out that he was kind of up to his old tricks and doing those kinds of things again. And things started getting strange as far as my life went. And at the time, I had no idea what it was. Not everybody's a conspiracy theorist. You think they're having a string of bad luck or whatever else. Well, that wasn't it. Come to find out, due to, and I guess I was blamed for most of it, due to his what he was doing and his running a drug house, basically, and supplying drugs to underage kids and having sex with them, etc., and it hitting public, and I was one of them that helped put it out there. He started being invested. I was just thinking, I started figuring it out that it had to do with him and my opposition. And another thing I might add, if people are looking on this and trying to see what was going on there, if you look up on the internet about judicial hellholes, there was actually a website about that. You'll see that Madison County, Illinois courthouse is ranked in the top 10 of all counties in the United States, of which there are, thousands. It's ranked in the top 10 of being a judicial hellhole, where people can take lawsuits, and they did, from all over the country, would take them to Madison County, to lawyers like Tom Lakin and the Lakin Law Firm, and there were several others around there that were good at doing it. They had that, I guess I can say this, I don't care if they come after me and sue me to death, to be honest with you, Ollie, but they owned that courthouse. They owned the judges. They owned everything about it. Lawsuits that couldn't be won anywhere else, New York, Texas, California, they came there. They won. They won big money. I mean, billions of dollars were made through that courthouse. And Lakin was one of the men that was responsible for building that money-making machine. So whenever all this went down, it didn't just take him down. It shined a light on that. It hurt that. It hurt that business. That was a business they had going on there, and it hurt that. So I took a lot of the heat for that, for just trying to do the right thing. And anybody who is a halfway decent father found out their daughter was there, and then knew it was other children and stuff that was involved. If you do research on it, you'll find out. And I happen to know more than most people about it. There were dozens. There weren't just one or two. There were dozens. But anyway, where was I, Ellen? Whenever he went to prison was right about the time Barack Obama got elected. Things started going bad, but they were bearable.
Your businesses and everything else. What about your family at that point?
Yeah, things were getting goofy. I mean, like I said, I was having problems with relationships with people, employees, contractors that I had worked with, where I got good loads for my truck, subcontractors that did work on my real estates, et cetera, employees. Things just started getting goofy, but they weren't really, really bad. They were bearable, but it was a strain. It was an uphill battle all the time. And then I've got this stuff wrote down. I should have had that part of it, but I guess it was about 5 years ago. maybe 4, that he got out of prison. He got an early release, which, didn't surprise anybody. So we were surprised he even got put in the first place. But he got an early release. And right when he got out, his cousin got elected sheriff of Madison County. Anybody cares to look that up? It's Madison County, Illinois. You look, see who the sheriff is. I forget his first name, but it's a Lakin. That's his cousin. Well, between the two things, him getting out and his cousin being elected sheriff, my life went from troublesome and uphill battle to impossible. I mean, it was bad. I mean, nothing worked. Everything was failing. I couldn't get to where I used to get loads that might pay as much as $15,000. I'll let you take an oversized load up into Canada or something that would take me 4 or 5 days. I couldn't hardly get a load of bricks that paid $2,000. It was like that. It was things just were going bad. Real estate deals, that was over. I wasn't buying and selling anything anymore. I was just trying to hang on to what I had. Relationships, my friends, family, even my daughter, who I was really close to, loved her, my grandchildren, even her, she turned on me, she started looking at me. I mean, you could see it in her eyes, she just, instead of looking at me with the look she always had, it was more of one of, like, who are you? And she even asked me that at one point, who are you? So they had an effect. They had, these people are powerful. And the way it was put to me was, men like that don't get investigated until they can no longer ignore it. And this was even put to me by law enforcement in that area who loved that guy. They treated him like a god. So whenever his name became too public and what he was doing, they had to take action. Well, before doing it, they warned him. I mean, he was warned by the FBI, the local authorities, what was coming. And that man started buying people gifts left and right. My daughter was one of them. He came and even met me one day in a bar and sat down next to me. I looked at him and I thought, why is this guy sitting next to me? I don't like him and he doesn't like me. And he looked over at me and he asked me why did I continue to run him down and say bad things about him. I said, because that's who you are, And then he got a little angry with me and said, your daughter's sick. That daughter of yours, that job she's got, that good job as an accountant, I got that for her. And I said, why would you do that? Like, for what reason did you give my daughter a job? She's a college graduate. She could have got her own job. And he proceeded to tell me I should be thankful, and I shouldn't be mad at him. I shouldn't say bad things about him. I said, I'm not thankful to you for nothing. The guy left. I called my daughter and asked her again, I asked her if this was true, that he had got her job. And she asked me, to stay out of it, to quit looking into that. She knew how this guy was, and she was kind of afraid of him. I wasn't. Most people in that town were. And I told her, I said, you need to stay away from this guy. You just don't know what you're doing here. Yeah, he's powerful. Yeah, he can give you money, cars, gifts, homes, jobs, but you need to stay away from him. Well, I started looking into it a little bit deeper. It wasn't just her that he was giving that to. He was giving gifts of large amounts of money, automobiles, homes, trips, jobs, all kinds of things to many people about that age range. This is because he had been forewarned of what was coming, and he was buying off everyone that could testify against him. There were people that he sent out of town. I mean, gave enough money to get out of town, people that knew enough that he didn't want them testifying so they wouldn't be called to testify. Anyhow, for all that the man did wrong, the guy got his hands slapped. I mean, you wouldn't think that being arrested for child molestation or he was convicted, which he wasn't. He pled no contest, so he wouldn't be actually convicted of that. He was a brilliant lawyer, make no mistake about it, brilliant lawyer. And he pleaded to one of the counts, I guess, of no contest. He got, I think it was 6 years or something. He was out in 3 or 4. And about that time that he went in was about the time Barack Obama became president. And like I said, this man if you read about him on the internet, he was a power broker. He was rich. He owned a home in Malibu, lived next door to stars, Sylvester Stallone, etc. Wealthy man, friends with the presidents. Barack Obama used to come to his house. The Clintons did. Every time the Clintons come to town, he would sit next to them at their table with fundraisers and such. He knew powerful people, and he was very powerful. He used to, whenever he would drink, whenever I used to be an acquaintance of his, he used to claim he was judge, jury, and prosecutor of that part of Illinois. No one become congressman or senator without his okay or his influence, and even presidents. So that's who he said he was. I used to think he was blowing smoke. He wasn't. The guy was powerful. I do not think that Barack Obama would have become president without that guy's help. I really don't. So that's who he was, and that's how that went down. Whenever he got arrested, and his trial was going on, and he got put in jail, my life took a turn for the worst in a big way, and things started happening. You all know what TIs go through. Well, my business deals started going bad left and right. People turning on me that never did before. It was just, and I still didn't get it. I had no idea what a TI was.
And tonight we have a very special guest. If you are new to the call, though, please stay on, and we will get you some support, some additional TalkShoe podcast numbers, and some helpful links and websites. This is a solutions and educational-based podcast, but the views and opinions of my guests are not necessarily my own personal views and opinions. My goal is that everyone can obtain something out of tonight, especially a feeling of empowerment. If you have any suggestions, comments, questions, especially if you are in need of additional support, please don't hesitate to email me at tiangel2016@gmail.com. Again, that's tiangel2016@gmail.com. So before we get to my guest, I would like to talk about a few things. From what I understand, some of these after calls have been a little divisive and a lot of perping and interference and things like that. So I just wanted to say that if you're new, I wouldn't even suggest going to the later calls. I think Kyle manages this call, and typically Ryan does too, but he's been having some problems with his board. But I am concerned about just some of the things that go on, and understand that there's COINTELPRO outside the community, like the people around you, starting rumors and trying to take you down and make you isolated. So it's going on within the community, too. They don't want people unifying. They send people in to cause division, to start rumors, and to create problems. And sometimes it's just targets who don't, we don't all agree, and we don't all have the same perspective. And so sometimes it's just personality issues with them, I like to say. But so I am sorry for that, and I do think we need to be bigger than that, and we need to unify. That's the only way we're going to beat this. And and I'm sorry that there are perps within the community, and I'm sorry that they can make it confusing and they can cause additional paranoia. But, there's plenty of people here to support you and give people a chance to kind of, watch people for a long time. If people are doing good, for long periods of time, they're probably not perps, but it's unfortunate that this goes on within our community. And, just like in many social situations, there's people who cause rumors, and you know how the story goes. You're sitting in a circle. You say one thing to one person. By the time it gets around the circle, it's a completely different story, and that's kind of what happens in this community. So I just give everybody the benefit of the doubt, and I actually don't get caught up in drama. I try to straighten it out, but drama is not productive, and it doesn't help anyone. We need to put our focus on taking care of yourself, giving support, and educating yourself and doing activism, most importantly, in my own opinion, and kind of sticking together and not getting caught up in drama and the nonsense. And if you're new, you're not going to know what the drama is and who's being honest and who's not. And you just have to wait it out. Just stand back objectively, and you'll get a sense. But I remember being confused when I came to the community, too, and I remember being attacked right when I entered the community. And, but I just had to develop a little thicker skin, unfortunately, in a community that we need to be supportive of one another. But there are supportive people, and there's supportive moderators, and there's really educating calls that have a real important educational stance, not referring to mine, but other ones as well. And so I hope that you guys can keep that in mind and just know that, perps are in the community too, and they try to cause problems, and that's just how it is. And, there's also paranoia, so that's sometimes a component as well. So, but use your instincts, give people a little time to prove themselves, and that's my little input for today. I just get emails from people, and they're very saddened by some of the calls and some of the immaturity and, middle school behavior and all that. And I know it's very hard, and it can be scary if you're new. So I'm sorry that happens. Like I said, if you need support from supportive people, you can reach out to me or other people that you trust, and they can point you in the right direction of supportive people. So anyways, to get back to our guest, which is very important, his name is Steve R. Baysden, or Baz. How do you say your last name, Stephen? Baysden. Yeah. And you're from Illinois, and you owned and operated 2 successful businesses, earning $200,000 a year, and one was a trucking company hauling flatbed freight around the country and into Canada, and you had real estate business as well, and you had rental properties, and you rented and resold distressed properties. You have a loving daughter and 2 beautiful grandchildren, and after this happened to you, your whole life turned around 180 degrees, and you're trying hard to live as a Christian. And then this, happened to you, and so here you are to tell your story.